She's economic
I'm
development.
going to call this meeting.
Yeah.
It is now 7.
Yeah.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Still says it starts shortly, so.
Is this recent?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, welcome, 7 o'clock, Tuesday, May 7th. I always read the agenda. Sometimes we take things a little out of order depending upon how our cadence is. But we always start with community input, then we'll have appointments and resignations, vote to waive police station renovation permit fees, fee study report from our executive intern, town meeting and town election public information session, review board of health septic regulation proposals, initial vacancies, and committee policy discussion, TA report, cemetery deeds, minutes and warrants, liaison reports, and community input. Great. These are, thank you from Christina and we don't want her back.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience who would like to offer any community input? Seeing none. Anybody online? Zach, the only person?
It's me and Zach.
Just you and Zach. Okay, never mind then. All right, so actually I have a little something. Tonight is Nathan's last meeting with us before the elections, and we have a little something to present to him. So wrapped, but I'll leave it in this thing so we don't get fingerprints all over it. So Nathan, this is with thanks and appreciation for your years of dedicated service to the town of Carlisle. And we were trying to figure out how many committees. I knew you were on planning board. You were on Conscom as well?
No,
No,
historical commission.
historic commission. I mean, what else I mean, you've done.
Select board, I was in Highland too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Just lots of other small ones, the IC committee, things like
Right. Well,
that. Planning board is like.
a lot of things,
Yeah.
and thank you
so much.
so much. I think that's it's wonderful. Anybody else would like to?
I'd just like to, it's very sweet of you all, thank you
Well.
very, very much.
Retirement is great.
Retirement is great, you guys.
They can keep it tired.
Yeah.
I would say Nathan's knowledge of tribal lore here in Carlisle is unmatched.
Yes.
And his memory is extremely acute, and I'm gonna miss that repository
As
of.
we are, David.
Back in 2006, we did, and you know, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure serving the community and just, thank you for everybody for continuing to elect me and letting me serve you all.
Note to Triola, don't screw it up.
I think he's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, he's good.
And thank you for all of your insight. You have always made us think as a board, and I really appreciate that. So,
Thank you.
And you also have added a nice touch of humor often as most needed.
And
Maybe
you
contribution.
can expect some phone calls from us from time to time.
Or him out down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So we have the safety committee, the cemetery
Yes,
committee,
yes,
there's
yes,
plenty of other.
Pick a committee, any committee.
Retirement, that's not.
Right, Alan?
Doesn't work.
Okay.
I'm not going.
So next, we have appointments and resignations. Trying to get this.
Would you like me to make the motion to
Yes,
appoint
I'd love that.
Gregory? I move to appoint Gregory James to the position of heavy equipment operator for the Department of Public Works, pending successful salary negotiations and required hiring administration, with an anticipated start date of May 13th, 2024.
Second.
You wanna say anything, Ryan?
I'd love to. So Gregory comes to us with a tremendous amount of experience, which is nice. You know, we have some vacancies in the DPW, so he's fully ready to go, assuming this appointment. He worked for the MWRA as a laborer, and then 2 driver laborer positions on the, I want to say civilian, but that's my other job, on the business side, not municipal side. So we very rarely get someone with this much experience to come in and just jump in the job. So we're very excited because we are understaffed and we have a lot for him to do and to help us out.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was unanimous. And we have one resignation to accept for Alex Para, who is another one of those guys who has spent years and years and years of dedicated service to this town. We accept it with thanks and appreciation.
He did mention he hopes to return in the fall,
Yes,
which is
yes,
much appreciated.
yes.
Yes, we're noting that in the public record.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
So can we accept the resignation until fall?
Conditional.
Temporary resignation.
Right.
Okay. All right, we're at our 7:10 agenda item, vote to waive police station renovation permitting fees.
All right, so this one's relatively simple, assuming no major questions. So the police station building renovation committee, I'm gonna get that right one of these days, and the designer are looking, and particularly John Mativier, are looking for permission to waive fees related to any fees we can waive related to the renovation project. So this is pretty standard. It's too much for John to waive on his own, so he needs a select board to do it.
So this is waiving the fees that the town would charge the town because they wanted to do a project.
Correct. Except for any boards and committees that have outsourced their inspections, obviously we need to pay those. But these are for internal inspections like John's.
I move that we approve the waiving of permitting fees for the town's police station renovation project.
Second?
Any further discussion?
Does this extend to Board of Health fees or
No,
only fees we
because they don't do internal inspections, they have a engineer.
Third party.
All right, any other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, that was unanimous. Moving right along, fee study report. You're on.
All right,
Is there
so
somebody else we can put this in front of?
Put it in front of Zach.
So some of you have met Zach, others.
Nathan, don't,
Okay, I
excuse
get
me.
it. What do you got?
Sorry, don't wanna leave out a board member.
Sorry.
We'll make
Get in the way of his food.
Christina did, by way of thanking us for the fashion show. But, you know, obviously, police chief should get one because he was in it.
Anyone.
Sorry.
to interrupt, but that was so good.
Howard Sugar's gonna dust off your uniform.
All right, sorry, Zach.
All right, so Zach, for those of you who haven't met, Zach is our executive intern. Comes to us from UMass, which I appreciate, having gone there myself. So Zach is an economics major, and we had him look at Carlisle fees from an economic lens. I could say he works very hard, as most military veterans do, and I spend most of the day trying to convince him to come work in municipal government, maybe someday in Carlisle. So very grateful to have him this semester. This is going to be his last week, and then hopefully we can entice him into the profession as he graduates this month as well.
Congratulations. And welcome.
My name is Zach. First I want to start off and say thank you for your time, allowing me to present this to you guys. It's been my pleasure to work on this for this past semester. So we'll start with some background information. First, the purpose of this report was to compare and analyze fees between Carlisle and 9 other comparable towns. We then use the findings to create recommendations on future fee schedules. The construction is comprised of the main departments, and it took their key fees. So it's not all of the fees for each department. but the main ones that matter most. And for analysis, I took the data, put it into spreadsheets and tables, calculate the averages, as you guys have seen in the report, and I'll be happy to go over that in further detail if need be. Moving on to demographics. So the populations vary in the towns that I used, and the most comparable to them were Harvard. Thank you. Sorry.
Is that what it is? 'Cause
Was Harvard, Boxford, Boxborough, Dover, and Lincoln. The incomes also vary, with Carlisle being among the top. Most comparable to Weston, Boxford, and Dover. So Carlisle also holds the highest degree of education, veteran, and merit status among these comparable towns. The persons per household varies between 2 and 3 for all of these towns, with Carlisle at 2.9. This is an important, or one that stands out, as it can help us determine fees such as transfer tickets and how much a household may need to buy. And then there are special communities just to be considered within the town as well. Moving on to the transfer stickers and Foss Farms. So the fees covered here are transfer station stickers and garden plots. So data was collected for the price of 2 transfer station stickers. This was done because some of the towns in this comparison had, they only had the option to buy 2. So Carlisle ranked out the cheapest of those, with Weston being the only one that was cheaper. So Carlisle charges $40 for 2 transfer station tickets. The average was $92, so you can see that it's quite low. And then also Carlisle charged a low price of $25. It shared that lowest price with Groton. And average for garden plots was $44. And you can see towns that provide bulk item fee schedules listed there. Carlisle does not offer that.
This is bulk item fees that people bring to the transfer station.
Correct.
Okay, let's just clarify. Yeah, thanks.
So sofas, mattresses,
Got
things of that nature. I'll move on to the recommendations. So my first one is to increase the initial transfer station ticket cost. This will provide more revenue, but I would also maintain the cheaper price for the second one, as to not increase too much at one time. My second suggestion was to introduce a bulk item fee schedule, as it may also help increase the revenue. And my third one is to increase the low cost for the garden plots, but based off of demand. If you have a waiting list or a higher demand, it may make more sense to increase it, whereas if not, you don't want to force people out and then have vacant plots. So moving on to the Board of Health. So the fees covered here are soil testing, septic, well, and barn and livestock permits. And they represent the cost for residential projects. I chose residential to better compare to the makeup of Carlisle. So Carlisle maintained above average fees with the exception of the barn and livestock permit fees. Acton had a high soil testing fee that acted as an outlier. It brought the average up quite a bit. And Carlisle is more comparable to Harvard, Groton, and Boxborough. Moving on to recommendations. So my first one, there's room to increase cost of the initial soil testing. Carlisle is near the top, so there's not too much room, but I believe there is some room to increase it. I believe that the other fees should be maintained, as they are high compared to all the other towns. And then just an interesting point to the study, 40% of the towns belong to the Joba Valley Associated Boards of Health, which may be considered in the future for Carlisle to join. We'll move on to the building department. So the fees covered here are new building permits, solar, gas, and plumbing. Carlisle is very competitive with new building permit fees. Oh, my apologies. Being less than $1 over the average. Now the range for all of the towns started at $10 per $1,000 project cost, and the max was $14. So they were all very similar. Carlisle was $13. The solar calculations represent the cost to build and install the solar. Carlisle is relatively cheaper than the surrounding towns. They're also the only town to charge a flat rate for the building cost. Most towns charge their normal new building permit cost. Carlisle was a flat rate of $100. The gas and plumbing calculations were based off of the cost of the initial permit with a total of 13 fixtures. Carlisle has the most expensive per fixture cost, but it includes 11 in the initial. And the reason that I did the 13 fixtures was that the highest was 11, and to make sure that new fixture costs were added in there as well, I had to increase it to make it more comparable. Moving on to recommendations. My first recommendation is that the new building permit fee may be raised to increase revenue. As I said before, Carlisle's at $13 per $1,000 cost. This is at 14, so there is a little bit of room to move, even if you went above the 14. My second recommendation would be to maintain the solar prices, as it may incentivize residents to switch to a greener energy and overall benefit the town. And my third recommendation would be to reduce the included fixtures with Carlisle's gas and plumbing. It'll bring it more in line with the comparable towns, and then you'll also be able to generate more revenue through the additional fixtures. Moving on to the Council on Aging and Human Services and Recreation Departments. Fees covered here are the fitness classes and transportations offered by the COA, as well as the youth and adult programs and youth courses offered by the Recreation Department. The COA fitness classes are slightly higher than average costs, only by $1. But they also pay the instructor first and then get whatever's left over. So to adjust those prices really depends on the instructor's fees more than anything. Transportation fees are recommended donations. They're not always collected. It's not a fee to go here. We'd like a donation of this amount. Recreation prices reflect a per class price. This was done to account for the difference in the length of the courses that were offered. And the Carlisle Recreation Department actually offers a very extensive amount of programs, more than I found among the other towns. Moving on to recommendations. So my first recommendation was about reconstructing the fee schedule for the transportation, which may benefit the COA. And my initial thoughts were that it was a donation first, that it would kind of lag behind the other towns. I did a follow-up study to this, and it shows that the donation method is actually more effective than Harvard and Boxborough's method of collecting fees. So where there are these conflicting data points, it may be useful to put a little more research into it and see what you can find out. So my second recommendation is to discontinue services for Boston medical appointments unless on a case-by-case basis. Now reduce the price from $30 to $20 and bring it more in line with surrounding towns. And also make it a little more affordable for the elderly or the disabled that need to get those rides into Boston. And my third recommendation would be to maintain the fee schedule for the Recreation Department. They're all similar to the average, but these are important programs that teach new skills, help their residents socialize, and promote positive health and welfare. Move on to approved not required, zoning board appeals, and termination of applicability. So these fees were found under the other tab table. And the approval not required fees are calculated as no new lots and 3 new lots due to fee structures of the comparable towns. The Carlisle A&R fee is slightly above the average for both new lots and no new lots. And the ZBA filing fee is far below the average cost of the 10 towns. And the termination of applicability was the most expensive of all towns compared. My recommendations, the first one would be to maintain the A&R fee. It'll help keep Carlisle in line with surrounding towns. My second recommendation would be the ZBA filing fee may be increased to help supplement the revenue. and also bring it in line with the comparable towns where right now it is so much lower. And my third recommendation is the determination of applicability should not be raised due to its already high cost.
Can I ask you, the determination of applicability, is that COSCOM or historic, or what?
That is the historic,
Historic.
yes. Is there any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Good work. On the DOA, so you don't recommend nowhere do you recommend cutting fees, right? You're only either raising or not raising, seems to be your.
Correct.
Is that an inbound thing that you thought you shouldn't cut any fees if they're excessively high compared to?
So the ones that were high, they were, which just may sound like a lot, they were no more than 20%.
Okay, so
Like
they're
the
not
highest one was
crazy.
20% higher than the average. So where they were high, they weren't,
They weren't crazy.
200% higher or.
On back to COAHS, you said discontinue services for Boston medical appointments unless on a case-by-case basis with a reduced price. I'm not quite clear, like you said, the donation method seemed to be working all right. Are you saying, what are you saying there on the medical appointments?
So I'm saying that if you can reduce the amount of rides given to Boston, make it on more of a,
But what do those people do then? Isn't the point of having the service so people can get in for their appointments?
correct, it is.
So what would be the alternative?
I don't have a great answer for you right now.
Okay, you're just saying because it's expensive to go into, what is the rationale for?
The rationale is to cut down on the fuel consumption, the mileage put on the vehicles, the maintenance, the driver's time. It's more to reduce the actual cost of the COA transportation. That way, the subsidies they get and the donations will kind of go a little further with them.
Is that a
So it's more.
problem issue for them? I haven't heard that transportation.
We just have to increase that line because at one point they had to give the drivers more money.
Yeah, well, driver shortage is a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm guessing that the donation part is, they ask for 5, but a lot of people might give them 10 or 20 or, so that's maybe why that's working.
Yeah.
Um,
For the short stuff, but.
yeah,
But you said, Zach, let me go back to it. Reduced price from, you mean don't charge 30?
Right, yeah,
They
because
now charge
right now
30.
it's $30. I'm saying reduce that to 20. It'll be more in line with the surrounding towns, as well as, like you were saying, going into Boston, it is a necessity. It is something
Yeah,
that
but if
needs
it's a
to happen.
necessity, it's worth 30, right? Because an Uber will cost them twice that. I guess I could see where you say, raise the price because it's too expensive
Right.
to go down to Boston for what we're charging. I can't see discontinue it or offer it cheaper. That seems like counterintuitive to me.
Right.
We should price it so, if it's important enough for people, they're still getting a break, right?
Right.
Okay.
I kind of heard it more as try to reduce it, see if we can reduce it, because it will reduce our cost, but we're still doing it.
Right.
But reduce the cost to the person because it's a better service and we want to not be overcharging.
Yeah, I just can't reconcile that with discontinued services. I'm not clear where we landed now.
So
Yeah.
I think Nathan you had put that in better words than I had, but I picked up what I was trying to get across there was, I guess, discontinue, maybe not be, I don't want to end the service completely because I understand that it's something that is needed and does help the elderly and helps the disabled. But reducing the amount of trips in there just to cut down on the cost for the COA, I believe would help. And then also, it is a necessity, so from $30 where it is now, bring it down to 20, more in line with the towns surrounding us, as well as kind of easing the burden on the customers who use it as well.
I think we need more data for that
Yeah.
one.
Well, and I'd just say, Zach, I think this is great, because our board is always asking for data. We tell Ryan all the time,
Yeah.
get us some data, and this is really helpful.
It shows us what we should be looking for.
Yeah, exactly, but I also, know that behind the data, there's also, and I don't know if you had a chance to contact any of these towns and talk with them about this, because sometimes they can give you some insight as to,
Right.
oh yeah, we reduced this fee because of X, Y, or Z, that they have a reason, and I think those are the things that we're gonna have to evaluate, but this is a great starting point to
Yeah.
look at.
So Zach's pretty modest. He did drive to each town. He communicated with
He did.
each department.
Good.
And we talked today about the difference between economics and public policy. So if you were to suggest to create a market out of Foss Farm, you'd probably be fired as a town administrator, right? So I'm being hyperbolic on purpose, but the idea of analyzing from an economics lens is great, because he's just looking at it from pure finance, as opposed to some of the public policy decisions, which are subsidies and other investments because the community wants them. So
Correct.
it's a good conversation.
Yeah, that's great. It's very helpful too, thank you for doing this.
No, thank you.
Yes.
Is there any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Again, thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate this internship has been amazing with the guidance of Ryan as well. I've learned a lot here, and having the opportunity to come up here and present to you guys what I did means a lot, and I appreciate it.
And so you
Great.
Thank you very much.
graduate in May.
Yes.
Great, so you can start here in June.
Thank you.
Congratulations on
Yeah.
your coming graduation.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Right, town meeting and a town election public information session. I'm going to, turn it over to you, Ryan, right off the bat.
So I would like to start with the necessary items on the motions. So the three necessary items, one is going to be very simple, the police station. Right, we'll get through that very quickly. The other two are the department revolving funds and the amount for the capital stabilization fund. So those are, unless you want to change any other recommendations, which of course is possible, those are the main topics. So if we can get through those. I will first start with the department revolving. As Kelly said, she'd kill me if I didn't get this done. She's more violent than you people think. So this is an annual article, so what this does, and I know the select board knows this, but what this does is it sets the spending limits for each department, and the revolving funds have been already authorized by town meeting. They exist and they're functioned and they're audited. The point here is to set the annual limit, which is required by law. It's the only thing that's required by law because of municipal modernization. So this has to be done annually. The outliers in this request are as follows. The Board of Health requested an increase in their inspections revolving fund. The financial management team agrees that this would need to be higher in order for them to accomplish their mission. The Conscom building maintenance revolving fund has not been used in a while and is not used, so we're just gonna zero that out and recommend that you remove it from the bylaw in the fall. The other change, and they're here to present it themselves if you have questions, are the Youth Commission. So they were traditionally at 10,000. They've exceeded that this year because for many reasons, great management, but also coming out of COVID and increasing the programming, they need more spending ability. So 14,000 is the recommendation. And finally, the Deer Control Committee revolving fund. I don't know anything about that, but we don't spend any, we don't spend anything out of that revolving fund, so that's another example of zero and change the bylaw in the fall. So by setting it at zero, you're essentially not allowing any spending. No spending is happening anyway. Kelly heavily vetted this, and I agree. So does the financial management team. So those are the 4 changes.
And Kelly also vetted the increases, the requested increases, and she knows that that's what they've been spending, that they bring because it's a revolving account, so you don't want to bring in $17,000 and have 18,000 or 14,000 spending limit, and you have 17,000 of obligations because you brought those in. It's supposed to pass out.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm having a little trouble understanding. So, like, Board of Health, they took in 43, they spent 45, so they spent a little more than they took in. But they're sitting on a balance of 97, so we're saying let them spend it down if it, like, what's the rationale for going up to 90?
So the worry is they've reserved money for some of the building projects that are gonna happen, and
They're
they're
gonna
spending,
happen, so they think that stuff's gonna get flushed out.
it will be coming and they'll have to spend more.
Okay, all right. And I know I came in the middle of Lori talking about the youth commission, but Lori, you took in more than you spent.
Yes.
And you just feel like you're gonna have more activity this year, is that basically?
We have two, we haven't fully paid for the
I see,
May.
okay.
Have we filled it? Yeah.
Alright, okay,
There,
so,
we just got by in May, and we've got upcoming June, which
Okay.
is the biggest one of
Okay.
the year.
okay,
So because the cap, we
I get it,
can't, yeah,
So
June.
basically, from a fiscal prudence standpoint, as long as there's fund balance to cover, well, it's not true of like school bus, but as long as there's anticipated funds to cover, it shouldn't be an issue.
They can't, I know it sounds overly simplistic, they can't spend any money they don't have, so this
Right.
cap just allows them to spend it if they do have it.
If they do have it, like the school bus fund can't overspend, they gotta collect it to spend.
No, it's just to allow us to spend what we,
Well, in your case, you got it,
Yeah.
and in
Right.
Board of Health, they
Care
got
about
it.
it.
But in the bus, they're gonna get it, they can't overspend till they get it.
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
And they can only spend it on what it was collected for,
Well,
so they
that I
can't go and have a pizza lunch on it or whatever.
Right, right.
we do have pizza dinner.
Why, you-
Is it still $2?
Well, it's actually covered in the cost of our vanilla.
Oh, okay, very good.
Okay.
Okay, I'm fine, thank you, I understand.
So I also have a question about Board of Health. So if I'm reading this right, they're currently set at 70, right? They have 97. They have spent 45 so far, right?
As of April 1.
As of April 1. So there's 2 months left. And I realize this is for the next year, but there's 2 months left. They're not gonna get anywhere near the 70, right? In this year.
No, but this service is based off of their inspection cycle, and they're predicting, based off the applications that they're facing, that they will be spending more in the next couple years because of the projects that are backlogged. So this is in anticipation of spending more. It does not mean that they will spend more.
Just allows
raise the
them to
cap.
spend up to this
And
amount.
so what can this money be spent on?
By bylaw, it can only be spent on what the what the money is brought in for the permit, so essentially inspections and a little bit more.
Okay.
So it's not like recreation, which is a 53D, which can incorporate capital and programming, and is very restricted to what you're bringing the revenue in for.
Okay, so it has to be related directly to that project.
To that function that was passed by town meeting, which is the inspection of wells, restaurants, and other inspection categories.
I guess
It's just a big increase going from 70 to 90. It's a big increase. Okay.
I guess the other question is, do they collect more than they actually spend or what happens to the money if they collect more than they spend?
It stays there, they can spend it the next year.
Well, but let's say, but if that project is already finished and gone, they're not gonna spend, let's say they, $5 for project A, and they spend $4 on project A for the inspections, what happens to the extra $1?
I think what I just heard was it doesn't have to be on that particular project, it has to be working on that function.
Ah,
So if it's water testing or if it's something,
Okay.
it could be on a different project that money is spent on.
all right,
It doesn't have to be spent on the project we collected the money for. It just has to be spent on something related to that.
got it, okay,
Am I right?
yeah, okay, which makes accounting pretty tough.
A lot less hard than if it had to be spent on a particular project.
Well, that's true,
But you have gone through these, or someone has, and looked at them and said, we have, reasonable expectations. The Board of Health, for example, showed you, said, oh, well, we've got this amount of projects and everything, and so they've justified it. It's not just kind of pulled out of the air.
we don't have that level of control.
But they believe, right, I mean, they believe it, so I guess we'll see and we'll find out next year. I mean, it's.
Cause they
it's
can't
the money-
spend it on something else.
Yeah, they can't spend it on something else, and we're moaning and groaning that the balances are too high. Actually, it would be a good thing, I guess, if.
Well, that might mean that they're charging, their fees are too high.
Well, that's a
and
whole
we've
separate
lost
thing,
them.
but people paid in based on those fees, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to know how much has been explored in this, and we're finding that it's not.
There's a black box
There's
called
a-
the BOH. If you
It's just seems to me like.
pierce that,
70 to 90 is, I can't do the math really quick in my head, but that's over 25%, isn't it?
I mean, one of the themes that we discussed this year with the finance committee and the select board was to really dig into these revolving accounts and see
Yeah.
how they fit into the financial picture. So I do think we have more work here, but I don't think that this approval relates to that.
this shouldn't stand in the way.
Okay. All right, good.
Okay.
That's something to consider for the future.
Absolutely, I agree.
So if the board's willing to support this, we'll put it to town meeting vote.
Can I
So
have,
we don't need to motion it here.
yes, we want a motion.
Sure.
We want a motion to support.
Okay.
I move that the select board support the departmental revolving funds authorization for, Article 8 at town meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 8 is, I should say, according to this, Article 8 is the wage and salary table.
Yes, it used to be Article 8, it's Article 7.
Right, so we need a new motion, Ms. Arnold.
I amend my motion to say Article 7.
Does the seconder accept the amendment?
I have a yes, I do, but I have a comment. I accept the amendment, and there's a typo in Article 7, it says Department Revolving Funds Authorization. Let's have fun.
Let's have fun.
So does this mean we're all set to spend the money for the June?
Nope, we're gonna get to that next.
Okay.
This is next year.
This is next
We're
year.
gonna get through this one first.
Okay.
Okay. So,
We need to,
is there any, can I have a vote? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that was unanimous then.
All right, the next issue in here, and I apologize for not putting it in the packet directly, but the youth commission needs the same authorization for fiscal year 24, because they've already exceeded, you can see the 10,000. So I'm looking for, sorry, they haven't exceeded, but they will exceed based off of their current programming. So they're looking to have the FY 24 cap raised to 14,000, which requires a vote of the select board and the finance committee.
Oh, but it doesn't have to go to town meeting.
It's not.
Okay. Is there a
so
motion?
I
I
move
just have
that.
one question about that, if I may. So you have spent 8,400 so far, you have 5,500 left.
But we'll have more, we have more than that because there's fees that have been paid for April, fees that are
Okay,
paid for
so you're
May,
expecting
fees that
more
are paid for
revenue.
June, yes.
So you will have the ability to spend 10,000 this year and still have 10,000 for next year, is what you're anticipating.
That's what we're anticipating.
Yes.
Okay,
The enrollment varies,
And I
but,
would know from us.
yeah, but it's been consistently, which is historically high, between 120 and 150 students. So they pre-register to the rec department, so $15 for each student. They come in, they get tickets that they can spend on photos, snacks, activities. And so it's been sort of just, we're sort of greasing the wheel each time the kids get enrolled, and it pays for the snacks and everything, so it's been rotating really well. But with this particular year, because of the cap, we have that one more FNL, and the cap limits us to be able to access the funds that we made in May to pay for June, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a good description.
Any other?
So, this is gonna put the motion on the
Oh,
floor.
okay, so if you're ready to, I didn't want to cut your
No.
question off. All right, so let's have a
Um,
motion.
I move that the select board approve the revolving fund for the youth
Increase.
commission to be increased to $14,000 for fiscal year 24.
That's right.
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Go spend the money.
Okay, that's unanimous, and so FinCom will have their vote.
Oh, sorry.
Do we know?
Yeah, do we have a timeline?
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
That's fantastic, thank you.
Well, they haven't approved it, but yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll be
That'd
here.
be fantastic.
They will.
Why is,
Yeah.
we were just taking it out of order from the timing? Wouldn't it normally be FinCom and then us on top of it?
Yes.
I think it was the timing of them when we needed it by.
Okay.
So, just because this comes up in the budget season, so this is the spending for the youth commission, which is around 14,000 this year. There is an artifact line item in the budget of 3,000 that isn't normally spended because this is a revolving fund expense. So do spend more than it looks like in the budget, 14,000 this year.
Yeah.
Plus. All right, second one that is on the easier side is capital stabilization. So the budget book and budget presentation recommended to you 300,000. We didn't put that money in the warrant in case we needed additional funding for or free cash for other projects. So if the board is still in support of the 300,000 as presented in the budget book, then that would also be a number that you could decide tonight.
So, is there a motion to fund the capital stabilization fund with $300,000 of free cash?
Is that,
So moved.
Okay, motion by Nathan, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Barney. Okay, are there any questions?
yeah, which
Discussion?
article is it?
Which article?
51.5? So we hadn't already approved this?
We
Just
approve,
not officially.
yeah.
It says, oh, but it says in here, select board recommends passage.
Oh, we recommended support of the article. Now we're looking at the motion, the actual number that's gonna be put in the motion.
And we hadn't done that, but that's what you've modeled, right?
Yes.
That was the number that was in the model, right?
It was, but if you needed free cash to move, we didn't want to commit to a number.
I got it. Okay, I'm all set.
In fact, we
Since I'm
did.
moving it, I support it.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Okay.
Okay, so you were sent information about the police station renovation building project. Justin's on the line. We have Spinny here as well from the committee and the police chief, myself. So
Alan, what's out, maybe two, isn't
Alan here, yep. See Alan?
he? Okay.
So the top line is that the
Alan, I thought you were retired.
And this is what it looks like.
Nathan.
Do as I say, don't do as I do.
Okay,
So there's a ton more detail behind this top line comment, but the summary is that the project, when estimated and then reconciled by TBA and then discussed by the police station building renovation committee, ended up at 3.55 million, roughly. And the detail behind that increase is available for discussion here and was sent to you both in the packet and in documents today, memo form and in individual detail. So I would encourage you to have the committee come up, the chief come up, and Justin's on the line to answer any questions. What is necessary tonight is the fate of that article. You did not put a number in the warrant for this reason. It was estimated at 3.1. It's just a placeholder in the summary, just a signal to the community. This is of course now higher than that, 3.55, and what you want to do with this article, what number you want to put in front of the town.
3.55.
He went 5.5, okay.
So, I mean, it should be noted that two items, besides whatever cost creep, scope creep, whatever cost going up, there was no contingency in the original number and there was no OPM fee in the original number. So I guess that's where I started, I was like, why weren't those in the original one? Aren't they standard
Let's have
things?
that. Is this from the documents you got today?
Yes.
I did see that, and I
Do you
wasn't
think we
sure.
can put that up on the timeline?
That's today's which document?
It's
From
the,
you,
it's the
the-
memo in the table after.
1401.
Scope drawings and estimate 5/6/2024.
It's in the memo, it's in the.
Yeah, so I did
other
notice that, and there was design contingency in the SD estimate, but no construction contingency. Now the design contingency, now that we're at 90%,
Yeah.
has gone away, but we do see a
That's the one.
construction
That takes
contingency.
it.
So
Is
we
there a
don't
way
see
to
Justin, but
enlarge
he
that a
is
little bit?
just.
I would go to the memo, cause then it cuts out all the pictures.
Okay.
The memo has the same table, but it's page width.
Does it make sense for one of you to just walk us through the changes? What created the increase?
We could, or I could punt it to Justin.
Well, that'd be great too.
I'd be happy to. So,
And
yes, I guess
Excuse me,
to-
before you
to-
start, we need the volume raised up for Justin, because I personally can't hear him terribly well. Okay, go ahead, Justin. Let's see if we can hear you.
Okay,
Oh, it's
It's
still
a little low.
so,
Damn.
how about now?
We're working on it, just a sec.
Oh, we're working on it. Okay.
Input. Output volume.
We need you to talk so we can know if it's working.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
not any louder.
No.
All right. Just don't want him to go off.
I can parrot some of it too.
Which memo was
I think we had this issue the last time too.
it? Yeah, I think we've had it on and off, and it's a
Yeah.
little annoying.
Right now, Justin?
Try it now.
Justin?
No, it's even worse. Can't hear him at all now.
I don't think he's talking.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Oh, he's frozen, okay. It might have been him all along. Oh, we're
frozen.
We're frozen. That's the problem with hybrid meetings. Not.
I guess I can't even say anything because we're not technically in a meeting now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. Loading.
Do you want me to check upstairs in the field room to see if they have?
It's the internet.
Well, Heald has the, is land stewards, is it Heald?
Yeah.
Is Justin Hancock associated?
TBA.
Hancock. It's in,
Memo to this one? or-
yeah, that, no, the second in from the right.
1409, yeah, memo to PBS,
Did you read? late?
ESBRC on cost estimate. But I can't get mine to load because we don't have internet.
That's what I'm worried
Yeah.
about. I don't know if
It's
they're.
always the worry. I don't think I have my phone on me, so I can't even throw it. But, yeah, I got my phone too.
Yeah. You can't connect, right? I'm up.
You're up?
They're out upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is on, but the internet is not.
Oh. That's not a good sign.
Thank you, Comcast.
Repeat.
I do.
Or we on the.
Just said it's
we on
not
fire.
Yeah, firewall.
Yeah, I think it's great. Contingency of In the closet, right?
I would say yes, it's please.
Yeah, but wait.
I usually download these to my
I
laptop.
usually do too, but this one I didn't.
I didn't either.
But you're on the net, you're getting it from the air, you're not listening.
I don't know where we get.
Oh, okay.
So
We have any fun yet?
Oh, it's got a lot of.
So what do we, I mean, legally, because we are meeting in person, we can't, huh?
I was just wondering the same thing because I'm dependent on Zoom connectivity to Benfield.
Benfield, yeah. Yeah.
I believe that this might have happened when we were here for the meeting last week on Thursday night. Not the, well, doesn't seem to be the Wi-Fi, but Comcast issue.
Well, I mean, can we discuss it without making any motion? No, okay.
Okay. Going to a different,
We can't take anything else on the agenda either.
no, we don't. Tomorrow night.
Or no, 2 nights, we have to repost it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to get it posted tonight if we want to do it tonight.
And we can't
You
because.
can't post them after hours.
You can't post that hours.
If you merely adjourned and continued the meeting.
I shouldn't, I don't know what I'm doing.
It's really good. Christina, those are really good.
Oh, I tried, can we?
I like the,
Wayne, that's good insight.
I like the.
If we do what,
We
Wayne?
adjourn to a date
You just,
certain.
yeah,
Oh.
you're just
I like-
Oh, you're
adjourning
not-
the meeting
right.
and continuing it.
Right,
I don't
we're
think-
continuing it out of
You're not
another,
ending the meeting.
right,
and scheduling
right.
a new one.
So we can admit Justin.
Yeah, admit Justin, we like it.
I'm gonna do this.
It's bad.
Oh, okay, now we need an L. Yes.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You didn't?
I had it about 12 years ago.
Yeah, but you knew that.
That you will get the new one.
Anyway, really.
I know.
How long have you had this?
You got it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I finished the retrobiotic medicine, but it just makes you tired, just so tired. So,
So you didn't have it at last selected.
no, right. It was 2 days Monday night. Got the rash. I thought it was on my vaccine. I thought I would have done it with pickleball. I wish.
Yeah.
Is it you catch it from other people or how do you?
No.
No, it's.
It's a
from
herpes
chicken-
virus that everybody
chicken
carries.
It's in your spine, and it
Yeah.
comes out under stress, kind of like our, they think.
Yeah.
I've certainly been under a lot more stress and different, no, I mean, I feel like I was in a lot more, under more stress when I was there than, that 2 weeks ago, so, I don't know.
Lovely to cut our side. Lovely to cut our side.
So I guess once the
I think it's a cable. Because we're, this is a different.
Oh, what just happened?
We're going back to the old system.
We're good.
Wait, not the cable, we talk about cable, not the physical cable, we're talking about Comcast versus what is our old?
This is being told us, so it's a different system. This is why it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
I know.
It's like too many inputs.
You want a different computer?
What do you have for here?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
No, I know it's another story.
I think it's plugged in.
And working.
I did it.
Power.
You see that the high school was hacked?
No, what happened?
Oh, no, what,
Yeah, they've been working, it was throughout town meeting too, they were working, all the, Wi-Fi was down.
Really?
Fortunately, it was contained apparently to PCs and wasn't a massive, it didn't have a massive disruption, but it did for a couple of days, they didn't have Wi-Fi. Which was
Did they
interesting
figure out
because
what
classes were different without Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And I heard that they actually talked at lunch.
Really? They don't have a policy of putting your cell phone in a basket or something.
When you go into class.
But not at lunch.
No, the classes. he said.
I actually don't know, that may be teacher by teacher, but
Yeah.
no.
Did they figure out what happened?
Yeah, they had gotten hacked, I don't know all the details, Lori Hunter sent out a, described it more in detail.
Yeah. Wow.
I know, it's a threat in today's world.
Yeah.
Well, this is putting our agenda.
Going back,
Yes.
we were doing so well.
Do you know what happened on the, I know they approved they overruled the FinCom and the select board, right, on the budget for the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what happened on the vote around the naming?
Ellen Garrison.
That,
School.
but it's not binding.
That's the right answer. Should be Ellen Garrison.
Can anyone online
Yeah,
hear us?
school. Yeah.
It's good for the whole
All right,
manufacturing.
we seem to be back. Could somebody online either text or chat us or let us know? Actually, Justin, can you hear us?
Whoops.
Yeah, we can't hear
Well, we can't hear you, so hang on. We're back to that.
Just went around in a big circle.
Justin crashed the internet.
We have to,
Justin, can you hear us?
yeah, but we still can't hear him. We
have no audio on our end.
have no audio here.
Should.
I know we should. Oh.
All right,
Last screen.
Justin, try again.
So Jerry
Okay,
can hear
the
it.
people on Zoom can hear
now.
Justin.
Hey!
Okay,
Yes.
Woohoo, Justin, hello.
okay. And we can hear you this time, so that's even better.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Where
You
were we?
would like to know. Yeah, you'd like to know how we got to where we are. So if I go back to what we presented in December, That was an estimate based on a combination of revised layouts in consultation with Chief Amendola, and then a moderate amount of modification to engineering, mostly through description. So the estimator was asked to estimate new architectural drawings and engineering drawings that were from the 2019-2020 era, along with a description of what would be modified, what would be changed, that we understood at that time. And so what they came back with was the around 3.1. We also had an option in there for doing the entry, which we didn't do. So what this chart is showing is in the sort of middle column, November 23, estimated cost at schematic design, is what we presented back in December, with one modification that what was carried in there, there were a couple of modifications. What was carried in there was the furnishings and equipment allowance was carried what we call above the line. It was essentially carried as though it was something that the general contractor would be part of the bid and the general contractor would have use of, which means that there was a general contractor markup on it, and ultimately led to the $2,919,000 number that was presented as the cost of doing the work that we then proceeded with. At that time, we didn't include the soft costs in any of those numbers, so it wasn't, at least in what I had provided to you, it wasn't known to me that the architect fees and project management fees and those things were going to be rolled into this, so none of those were carried. So what I've tried to do here is add those in here so you could see if we had carried these things, some of these things at that time as part of the project is where we would end up. In the next column over, May 24, this is the estimate that we've just received, and this is based on a 90% construction document set. So revised and developed architectural plans and details and full electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and civil drawings, as well as security system drawings and specifications. So those were sent out, and the numbers in that column are what came back. So what we see is essentially a $240,000 increase in the estimated bid cost. That $240,000 increase is primarily attributed to development and decisions made in the HVAC systems, which led to electrical systems and some plumbing. So the sort of big three there. There are also some things that we had in the project that these numbers already take out, some additional finishes, some additional areas that we were going to refinish in the building, even though we weren't reconfiguring any of the space. And so we have a good list of things that could be put into the project as add alternates, or we could find other ways of including it. So what led to the HVAC and ultimately electrical and the plumbing? With the changes in the code in the past 4 years, or between 4 years ago and now, all of the systems that were called for in the previous round to be either replaced or heavily reconfigured are essentially either outdated or past their life. They need to be replaced, and if they're to be replaced, they're not now to be replaced with the old-fashioned air handling units and gas-fired equipment. there's the push to electric, but they're also the more efficient systems. So what's in here, when we first did this out, was replace all of the stuff that was originally called for and replace it with electric heat pumps and fan coil units, reusing all of the ductwork that is in there. What remained was essentially a single air handling unit that was serving the dispatch area and a little bit of the office space. What also is in the building right now are a handful of spaces that don't have any ventilation air right now. They're not essentially served by HVAC systems. So we have to correct that. So what it's led to essentially is all of the HVAC system, the air handling units and the energy recovery units, and the heat pumps and fan coils are all going to be new, and then reuse the ductwork that is in place. The all-electric systems trigger the need to upgrade the electric service to the building. And so that's most of the increase in the electrical number is the additional or the increase in the service, so new panels that come along with that, new wiring, and as well as there's a handful of miscellaneous because of the reconfigurations, additional exit signs and some other devices, fire alarm and things. Not as much of a cost as increasing the service. The plumbing, so as you might recall, one of the things that we're doing in order to find more space in the building is we're removing one of the staircases at the front of the building. And in doing that, we need to add a new exit door off of the existing staircase at about the middle of the building. And it exits behind the accessible ramp that's been put in. The gas service to the building is right there where we need to put the door. And so we would have to relocate the gas service in order to put this door in. So we would have to incur that cost, but with all of the HVAC systems going to electric, the only thing left on gas would have been the hot water heater. So we opted for remove the gas service to the building, swap out the water heater for an electric water heater, and therefore all of the systems in the building become all electric. The other bit of plumbing increase is a change in the code that says in the Sally Port addition to the building, we have to add a floor drain system, which then has to go to an oil water separator, which is out in the site. So that's a bit of a pricey item, but that is a code requirement for a space that a vehicle will be pulled into. So those are the main things that led to the increase of around $240,000. Continuing down from there, just as you observed before, we did add a construction contingency in now, knowing this is potentially, hopefully, heading to construction. We would not recommend going into a construction project without some amount of contingency. This is sort of at owner's discretion as to how much you want. It is intended and it stays in the owner's hands. It's not something that goes to the general contractor unless we come across unforeseen conditions or you would like to make a change or modification to the project after it's bid. So that gets to what we would say a recommended construction budget of $3.3 million. Then we still carry $75,000 for furnishings and equipment. That's loose stuff that you're going to move into the building after it's finished. the remainder of our fees to carry the project through bidding and construction administration. And then because this is a project that is over $1.5 million, state law says that you have to have an owner's project manager as part of the project representing you. So all of those are what lead to total estimated project cost of $3.55 million.
Nathan, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay. Thank you.
For all kinds of reasons.
So I have a couple of questions. One is, so you mentioned when we were talking about the 240,000 or 250,000 roughly increase in the direct cost. You mentioned
Yes.
that some things, in order to keep that down, some things were pulled out. Could you explain specifically what are we not getting in this design that we thought we were getting, or that we were getting in the last design? What has been pulled out?
So we didn't pull out things that were in the last design and are not in this design. We pulled out things that we had included as part of our development of the design in this round. And so, for example, there are a few things in the estimate that we found, which are, we've changed the way the wall system is built, so there's some masonry work that we can easily pull out of the project. It's not getting less of anything, it's that we changed the detailing and it's not necessary to do. In the course of the work, because we're creating a open office space at the second floor, we looked at the possibility of adding windows into the gabled ends of the building. And so we have those, they're in the design, they were estimated. There's a bit of work in getting the windows in terms of cutting openings in the walls, reframing, and then installing the windows, doing new trim, and more interior finish work than we would have to otherwise. So that's something that we have pulled out of this number. Again, it's something that we could add in.
But those, but we were adding, when we talked last time at the 2.9 million or 3.1 million or something, we were adding windows. Are those windows?
We were not. No, we weren't adding windows back in December.
Yeah,
No.
we were adding window on one side of the building, but not the other side of the building.
We didn't have windows at that time, but that was people had requested that as part of during the design, that we have a look at that. But that was not included in the number that was presented in December.
The comment was added on the other side of the building.
Yeah, there is a window on one side.
Okay.
There is a window currently on one side of the building,
Yeah.
and the request was to add to the other side.
Okay.
What we did was add a second window to the side that has a window now, and got some thin windows in above the entry portico.
Okay.
At the opposite side. So there is, even with taking them out of the current design, there is a window in the gable end of the building.
So it wasn't pulled, so nothing's been pulled out on the window question.
I thought
From what we first saw.
replacing it or something like that. I thought that was one of the things that came up for how we were going to be sustainable. That we were
right.
putting, part of that was we were putting a better window in there. That's what I remember.
But that wasn't included initially, you're saying?
I thought it was.
Okay,
That was not included. That wasn't included in December.
okay.
Yeah, that wasn't included in the estimate in December. That was brought up, I think, at the meeting in December. It was
Yes.
requested whether we could
Okay.
add windows.
Okay.
Okay. Were there any other things?
Yeah, the rest are finishes and casework. So like I said, there's areas of the building that we're not reconfiguring, offices that are remaining, and during the course of our work, we were asked, can we look at what it would be to refinish the rooms, do new flooring, repaint the rooms. So again, we included those, we pulled those out for the purposes of getting to this 3.55 number. We have those estimated and can can put them back in. And then, like I said, there was some casework that we had called for to be built in place in the second floor, which we took out of this number. It's things that can be done as part of systems furniture rather than having a built-in casework.
There is one line item, a $37,000 line item that is a program element that is the type E swinging door, the electric door at the cell. And to the extent we would do an ad alternate, my understanding is that would probably be our top priority, ad alternate number one. But it is a significant, relatively significant cost, around $37,000.
It's not included in this cost estimate
It's
now,
not-
but it's something would be your top priority to add if we were willing to go up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is a cost estimate, it's unfortunate that it keeps going up, but we haven't bid this and we don't know what the bidding, we talked about the bidding climate, so.
Okay.
So we wouldn't increase the cost, Barney, we would bid it as an alternate and hope that it fit in.
Oh, within the cost. Gotcha.
So we could not do it if it didn't.
Okay.
So another question I have is, in going all electric, just so that for planning purposes, what's the life expectancy of the heat pumps?
They're very reliable, and it's what people are pretty much using nowadays.
Yeah. What's the life expectancy on them? I guess I don't know. Is that Justin for you?
Yeah, my understanding is that they're around 25 years.
And you're saying that the current air handlers and HVAC equipment that's there is at the end of its expected
It's
life?
it's a combination of either undersized or incapable of doing the reconfiguration needed, or it is at or beyond the end of its useful life.
And just following on that, on the all-electric, so the entire building will be serviced by electric, but you have a backup generator. Is the generator sized appropriately for the new electric loads that'll be on there?
Yeah, where the electrical engineer is not called for the generator to be changed, so it fits within the capacity of that generator.
And that's a diesel generator, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And the gas will be just capped, it's not, the meter will be taken out, right? I guess.
Meter will be taken out.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if at any point we would want a gas generator rather than a diesel generator.
I believe they really want you to have a diesel generator. They want you to have a sort of uninterruptible power source for a generator.
Okay.
Could be gas.
Yeah,
It could be, but if it's already diesel, it's really.
I know, I'm just thinking for when we have to replace that generator, if we'd ever.
Yep.
want to-
I would suggest doing it then.
Just doing it.
Or I would build the infrastructure now.
Okay, well, it's not that, what I'm just saying is don't take the infrastructure out.
Talking about the gas input infrastructure.
Yeah.
But it's blocking the door or whatever.
Yeah.
The door can only go in that one spot?
Yeah,
As long as
it can only go in the
Yeah.
one
As long
spot.
as they've sized it.
Doesn't the utility decide where they want to cap it? Don't they bring it out towards the street? Don't they make that choice? I've had that issue on projects, but maybe.
Yeah, they may want to cut it at the street. Whether you want to take the pipe out, I think the pipe is going underneath your ramp and everything. So my guess is it's easiest to take the meter out, and they can either stop it there or they can cut it at the street.
So in your experience, Justin, and maybe the committee too, on construction projects, there's always other things that haven't been foreseen. But have you thought about it? You know what you don't know.
Well, that's sort of the challenge of going from schematic design to a 90% estimate at the same time you're trying to give your select board a number for, we've sort of accelerated this process a little bit. But that's one reason that The construction contingency is important. Don't see it as voluntary. It is there and will probably be used at some level.
The contingency?
The construction contingency.
You
Yeah.
can't take it out.
No.
Yeah, there's always
no.
unforeseen, and
There's cost creep up. But does that cover increased costs?
no, once the bid comes in, when you say increased cost,
But don't the bids protect themselves as well? If a line items cost more?
well, part of the challenge for our cost estimator, I'm sure, is that they're bidding a project it's still a competitive market, and this is a phased construction of a police station that is fully operational at all times. So I don't know where Fogarty accounted for that, but I'm sure that is part of the pricing in there.
So a certain gentleman who often comes up with things, who's not in attendance in the audience, I can see, came up with something else that said estimator 50324. Is there another set of numbers? He said it was in our packet. But
Yeah,
I
you
couldn't.
said 3.8 million or something.
Yeah, it goes up to 4 point something. I mean,
Well,
is there another set of numbers we're not seeing? I guess that's
So I
the
can
question.
speak to that. So, this is, as we stated in December, a little bit of a rush process. We wanted to try and fit this town meeting. So Justin got the numbers later than he needed. He did everything he could to get it to the renovation committee reconciled. So he did get an original set of numbers that he's continued to funnel into what I think he believes is now.
I'm hearing this. I'm asking a simple question. Is there another set of estimated numbers from the cost estimator that is not being presented? Where did he come up with these numbers? He didn't make them up. I'm sure he didn't make them up. He
Well-
said they're in the packet. I don't see them in the packet.
Let's see.
The estimator provided us numbers, which we then did our due diligence on in reviewing all of those numbers with our consultants. And which, as I explained to the committee the other day, either we have a couple of cost consultants that are doing their work and then we reconcile between the two of them, or we have one, as we did here, and we have time to reconcile because we do our own estimating in-house and work with our engineers. So the numbers that were presented to the committee the other day and that are in this column that you have here, and we have a division summary as well, are the numbers that we recommend. They are the reconciled numbers between what we know is in the project and what the estimator saw was in the project, and we come to an agreement between those.
Okay, but
So
Justin got a set of numbers and then reconciled them. So the document that the Public Safety Building Renovation Committee got was December, and then the estimator's numbers, and then reconciled. So there is a set of numbers, but they were not reconciled by our design.
but the gap between that set of numbers from the estimator and the reconciled numbers is approximately $800,000. That's a pretty big gap to reconcile. If we're gonna go and
Does that sound
authorize,
right?
well, I mean, that's the math,
Just
unless he
asking.
made those numbers.
I'm
We're not seeing it, that's the thing, we're
asking
being
the
like
Well,
shielded.
yeah.
So it was the page that has comparison and reconciliation.
Yeah.
I don't know if we did see it and we walked through it with Justin on Friday.
But I mean,
But
it's an $800,000
what do you-
gap.
yeah,
We-
what do you-
We need to know that.
What do you make of that $800,000 gap?
So
I
the
think,
majority of things, sorry, I'm happy to try to answer if you'd like, or,
Please do.
Please, that'd be great.
okay.
we think there was some.
It came out of
Oh,
three primary areas. These things that I was describing before that we took out of the project that we could put back in, or but it can be discretionary. You get the same project either way. Is one big bunch of stuff we call the architectural numbers.
That's this.
The others were, as we went through and reviewed the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing numbers, there was a combination, I think, in the estimate that was either unit prices that are higher than we are seeing on similar projects, or quantities that differed significantly, and as well as some assumptions made about control systems, and the extent to which we were replacing ductwork. These are pretty high value items, and as we went through, that's what was taken out, and that's what I'm saying are the things that I reviewed extensively with our consulting engineers who designed and put together the documents with me.
What page is that on? Sorry.
52 of the pack.
52? Yeah.
So, question I have is, so obviously 3.55 million is disappointing.
Mhm.
But if we go to town meeting and we say 3.55 million, if it's 3.51 million, we've got a problem, right? So how certain are we
Is it?
3.55 million is going to be?
We won't know till there are bids. I have to, the cost estimators do their best, it's a 116-page set, they had a few weeks to look at it. We won't know. We would have loved it if the numbers seemed consistent, but there was some scope change, and now it'll have to go to bid. It doesn't have to go to bid, but I'm just saying, we won't know. And we can't guarantee it, Justin can't.
So would that suggest that we ought to be asking for additional funds to make sure? How do we determine what's the right number?
I guess I would change that a little bit. I don't think we should ask for additional funds, but are there funds somewhere that we could utilize?
Draw on if needed?
If it's 100,000 and 200,000 more than this, is there something we could draw on? Because I wouldn't want to make it 3.75, because then it's going to be $3.75 million project, right? Because what we approve is going to be what everybody knows the number is. I really, really, really think that it's going to cost us a whole lot of money if we can't move forward after town meeting.
If we can't what?
Move forward after town meeting.
Right.
So, Nathan, you've been sort of a cost control guy, I would say. So in your comment, I hear two parts. Are you saying, okay, I accept the 3.55, but that's it, and if it's more, you gotta find it somewhere else, or are you debating the 3.55? I wanna push back, because there's another way to say, what else, take out more stuff, right?
I think I'm disappointed it's 3.55. I don't want it to be 4. Right? And if we wait any longer, it's going to be 4.
Right.
So I'd rather spend the money now, as long as the committee is saying, yes, these changes that we've done are really what we need, and they're really the smart things that we do. Yeah. As I understand it, was unanimous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
and
you're the ones in the weeds, not me. Yeah. So I have to just take what you say.
We've reviewed the program. We've reviewed with the design team and with the chief, and even with, let's say, we're not even getting, let's say, the type E door, whatever, but we looked at it. We don't see that there are cuts here. It's either you renovate the police station to make it, modernized, accredited, more welcoming to the community room, or you don't. I don't really see. And then some of it, the all-electric system, there have been code changes, and it melds with, the master plan in terms of more sustainable. And in the future, you could have solar panels and I know that Dave Betcher is looking into rebates, and that could be some thousands of dollars, so.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I support this.
Swallow hard.
Right? I support it, but I'm really worried about.
Don't do it.
If 3.55 is off by any amount, no. This is just not happening until next fall.
Right. So what?
So I just throwing out there, what do we do? I don't think we should increase this number.
So that's not quite true. So if this is authorized, then you can borrow. This construction likely, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, won't start until next spring. So you'll have at least 2 town meetings to close any gaps. And I would say that you're gonna pay money to make sure the number is correct. So you would have to pay up front $100,000, $200,000 to get this out to bid and time it so that you would have an exact number, and it's still gonna cost what it's gonna cost. So I think the risk is either up front that the number is off and you have to supplement it, or that the cost would increase while you're getting that number dialed into the exact number.
When you talk about the money out front to get the bid and everything, we've approved money up to this point, but we haven't approved that yet. And is that all in there? It's not, is it?
It is.
It is.
So the rest of the architect's cost is bidding and construction management, and then you'll have to hire an OPM either way, and then get it out to bid. So either you're paying up front and then finding out the number is higher or lower than you thought, or you're authorizing it now and then you'll find out when you bid.
But you're pretty confident on like the architectural fees of another 79,000. That's a pretty
I think
reasonable.
that's what, yeah. I mean, it's required. I mean, you have
No, I
to
know it's
keep.
required. I just
What
want
about-
the certainty of how.
OPM for 90, do we have a reasonable expectation we can get an OPM for 90K?
It's a 1-year project. It's not full-time. So I think that was the feeling.
I have one more cost question, and this must have come out of our Board of Health discussions, but there was some reference made to having to redo the septic as a result of this and the upscaled requirements. Did you guys look at that at all?
Yes, we got the verbal okay on our calculations, and the Board of Health accepted that the field is sized sufficiently for this work. So the relocation and a new distribution box and pump box are part of the project already. They're in the parking lot. But the leaching field itself is sufficiently sized, and they accepted that.
Because we cut the number of lockers.
We did cut them.
All
Right, with reducing the lockers to 21 lockers.
Okay, thank you.
Lockers impact the size of the leach field?
Yes.
Don't get us started.
Welcome to the board.
They go by floor area and locker, a number of lockers.
It's a little locker.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, it could be, there could be 21 humongous lockers.
I was thinking we should do bigger lockers and have them double up and then, you know.
And
Anyway,
the
then
idea
you
of
do it right.
privacy and anyway, well,
Okay,
Okay.
I'm done, I'm okay.
You have no more questions. Bernie? No? Travis? Nathan?
No, but I think, but, yes, it's not, no. So Brian, what you're saying is we get it approved at town, and if it's different, we need to go back and ask for more money, right?
Or not, depending upon what the gap is. Because it was or not the last time. We had asked for money, we got the bids, it was greater, and we never went back to the town meeting.
for the police
But if
station?
it's even $1 over,
Yes.
you gotta go back to ask.
Right, exactly.
No. So there's enough money, you have enough contingency in your operating budget.
Okay, so you can supplement it with other.
Couldn't handle like 250 or
Okay. All right,
200, but you could handle 50.
So
Use
we
pay
can,
funds for
we can sign a bid contract with a contractor that's for an amount that's larger than what this warrant article is. Legally,
if you have the funding. Yes.
okay, so
I'm
those
saying
two
we have a
things
small
are tied.
tolerance to.
Yeah.
Right. So 25 cents we're all
Oh yeah. I will donate it.
I'll split the cost.
And there is the furniture line item. I mean, we need some furniture, but there are ways, which is $75,000. So there's a little play in that, I would say.
Furniture's expensive.
I know it does. I spec furniture all the time, but I'm just saying, it's something that you can do over time, or, you know, have another pool.
Putting in a pool?
No.
That's an alternate item.
Yeah. All right, my dears, do we have, I need a motion for determining the number to be put in the motion.
I move that the select board approve the number of $3,510,188 to be.
Wait,
It's
what was the number?
3.55.
3550.
Is that not what I just said? It's what I read, but maybe it's not what I said. 3,550,188.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay.
In Article
13.
13 or the appropriate article number.
The appropriate article number. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, great. That was unanimous.
Thank you.
Let's-
Thank you.
Fingers
Well,
crossed.
thank you.
For your work. Yes, thank you.
All right, so my favorite question to ask the select board, is there anything else in the warrant booklet that you would like to discuss, change, or?
Yeah, can we start with number 1? I'm just kidding.
I'm not so sure we won't be sorry to see you. Okay, what time is it? It is, we kind of went past our 8:05 time. Well, we did,
We had IT problem.
yes, we did have an IT problem. We did think we were gonna do the ballot questions. We do need to do those.
Are we online?
Whoops.
Yes. Yep, wanted to show you something without showing you my entire email.
Oh,
Can I just ask a couple of questions about town meetings? So are we meeting early? Were you showing up at 6:30? Is that still the plan?
we should
And it's
post
posted, yeah.
And it's being posted, okay. And then in the warrant book that we're looking at, and I'm assuming the motions handout will be different, but it says the name of somebody next to each motion. But my understanding is that person is not gonna be reading the motions. Is that correct, town moderator?
That is correct.
yeah.
Okay,
The moderator will say Kate Reed moves.
okay.
Right, we should still, it's still appropriate to have a name. You could put Kate's name on everyone from the select board, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, but you're
Just
going
not
to be doing the actual motions.
Right, yeah,
Okay,
just anything to make things go faster.
right, okay. Just clarifying that for everybody. Okay.
That's what we did the last time.
Yeah, I know, but it,
So just to add some difference to the meeting, just wanna show you the town meeting video that will go live tomorrow. Not the whole thing, just, I mean, Chief's great, but the star of the fashion show in the video is the next presenter. Tried to time it up.
Oh,
Hi, my name is
Jim Hall.
James Hall. I'm the Director of Public Works here in Carlisle. My capital request for the fiscal year 2025 consists of 2 items. The first item is a 2025 Ford F-450 diesel-powered 1-ton truck with a 9-foot power angle plow. This truck will replace our
Jim's a star. So the point of that is this video, it has graphics, pictures, and descriptions of every article. We're gonna put this up widely. Next year we're gonna start a little earlier, and so there's a little bit more lead time, but you also have to have the numbers and the approval. So I think it's gonna be good. So people should watch it if they wanna be informed. It's about 30 minutes. You can fast forward, skip it, do as much as you want. And next year it'll be a lot less me.
okay. So can we see by any chance who is visiting?
who is what?
Visiting online, because
Oh.
I'd like to know if there are people that have, well, questions.
Yes.
Because this was billed as a public information session. So, well, okay, let's do the ballot questions, and then I do want to see if there are people that are either in the audience. either our virtual or our real audience who have questions for the public information session of this part. So we reviewed the town meeting warrant recommendation, is that correct? I mean,
Yes, so the 3 ballot questions are the debt authorization for the fire truck, $975,000. Is the town allowed to exceed Proposition 2.5 in order to fund the debt for the fire truck? The second one is the police station. So this will be the whatever's voted at town meeting, which is now 355 for excluding that debt. The residents would be asked to support that by ballot. And the third question is whether or not the town clerk will move from a elected position to an appointed position. So this was approved at the fall town meeting, but requires a ballot. So those are the 3 election questions the town will be asked to decide on the 21st.
Is there anybody who has any question about any of these ballot questions that they would like to have more information on or clarification about? We did put a letter into the mosquito, was in last week, about the town clerk and our reasoning behind it. But this is supposed to be, we're trying to make it so that people if they have questions now, now's a good time to bring them up instead of on the floor of town meeting so that we can address them here. I don't see anyone.
One question I did get that I think would be good for this is what happens if town meeting approves the fire truck or the police station and the ballot doesn't pass. So that would mean that we could not exclude the debt. So although the project could still be funded within the operating budget, the select board would not have the approval to exceed Proposition 2.5 in order to pay for it. So it would greatly squeeze your operating budget and have strong financial considerations. So I'm guessing that the board would reevaluate those financial decisions if the ballot doesn't pass. So that excluded the question is important if people support the project or vice versa.
Yeah, and debt exclusion is different than an override. I think that's another thing that.
You only can override or increase taxes for the length of the debt. Not a permanent tax base increase.
In other words, the debt exclusion doesn't raise the tax base that later that gets increased by 2.5%.
Only to pay for the project.
Exactly.
It is a long time.
Yes.
It's a long increase. Generational.
Okay. So, we've done all the 3 things, items under number 5. So let's go to the review of the Board of Health septic regulation proposals. Review of staff and public comments, discuss the Board of Health public hearing, which is going to be tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We have been getting we've had a lot of emails, memos, comments, and we did, last time we met, you authorized me to request that they were having a public hearing and possibly a vote a week ago Wednesday, and to request them not to take the vote and to pause until they got all the information that they needed. They did not take the vote. They did, actually it was 2 weeks ago, Wednesday.
Right.
And they did, they were going to, extend the hearing to the following Wednesday, May 1, but then the staff got sick, so then they postponed it again till tomorrow. Unfortunately, 2 members of the planning board, the ones that are most knowledgeable around these issues, are not able to attend tomorrow. We have also posted a meeting, the select board has posted a meeting for tomorrow, so if any of us want to attend that, we can. But when I requested that they allow us to do a joint meeting with them, they denied that. So we can go as visitors, but this will not be a joint meeting, because the Board of Health didn't want us.
We can participate in the discussion.
Yeah, don't want us.
Assuming we're recognized and
Right.
So do we need to be a board or just individuals?
Well, that's a good question. We can.
Well, we posted it so we can deliver.
We could
Right.
deliberate, yes.
Parallel meetings, like parallel, you know, when the kids are little parallel play.
So, okay,
We're down to the,
so,
Playground.
there's that. I have to say, I don't know about you guys, but I have learned way more than I ever thought I would ever know about septic systems and nitrogen loading and the chemistry of all that. I've read, today I read the largest part of a 118-page report. But anyway, we have also here tonight, we have Julie and John, and who are staff who've written several memos, and we can certainly, we'll invite them in a minute. And there's also one member, Eric, from, that's it, from Planning Board. Welcome, Eric. It'd be good to hear your point of view too. And I think what tonight we want to do is, decide if there's something we're going to ask the Board of Health once we get there tomorrow. I mean, are we going to ask them to continue to pause, or are we going to ask them questions about their policy and the effects of their new regs? Well, what are we going to be going there to accomplish? What will be our goals? Okay, and I'm going to throw it open. Where do you want to start? Want to start with Julie and John and their memo, latest, to find out where we're at
well,
with that?
before we dive in,
Yes, okay, go.
a lot of us have been in different parts of this discussion.
Yeah.
So just, I'd like to kind of frame it out for those who haven't been in the minutiae. I mean, the Board of Health is certainly within their purview to decide how to treat groundwater and septic and all that. That's kind of their thing. And they have a certain set of beliefs about that, and that is being translated into regulations that are pretty tight. Are they appropriately tight? I'm not going to wade into that at the moment, but they're certainly sort of tight if you look across other towns and other situations. Separately, the planning board and the select board to some degree, and the MBTA certainly, and the the housing trust and all housing things have made it clear that if we're ever going to tackle that social issue of having what Julie calls the missing middle, well, even before, if we're going to tackle making housing more affordable in a town like Carlisle, we have to have certain creative solutions. And in the past, we've looked at accessory apartments, and there are other things. And that's what Julie calls, and other people call, I guess, the missing middle. In other words, you could build an apartment like was proposed at Banta a few years ago. That'll get you more affordable units, but there'll be other impact costs. You can close your eyes. Well, you can't close your eyes anymore because of MBTA, but you could have closed your eyes, said, screw you to 40B, which we basically did for a long time, and let people live on their 2-acre plots or 4-acre plots, and that's it. And we're trying to thread the needle a little bit to get the missing middle, to get some way of introducing some housing stock into this situation. And the master plan speaks to that as well. And again, I will reiterate, the Board of Health is completely within their purview to do what they want, but its impact is counter to all those initiatives. And we'll get into all the details about whether nitrogen loading and this flow and that flow, and your eyes will glaze over after a while, but the essential intersection here is a bunch of people in town who've put a lot of time and thought into a strategic plan to do a certain social mission are running headlong into a set of regulations that's absolutely counter to that. We don't really have much leverage. We just don't have much leverage. But people need to know, in my opinion, people need to know that those regulations, first of all, and I think we will get in, we don't see are backed by data and are definitely counter to social. Now, they would probably say, well, but the risk of not doing it our way is that you're going to have cesspools all over the place of, too much nitrogen, whatever. again, we go back to data. So I think we're going to spend some time here on some detailed issues. It's not going to move them, I'm telling you right now. But we, collectively, the town, if it's important enough, we need to get around getting data. I mean, Zach got data. We like data. Data drives good decisions. So I'm getting maybe a little too emotional on this topic, but we will dive into the weeds here with John and Julie, who put a ton of work into this thing. But we're not going to stop. We're not experts.
No.
We're not going to learn enough tonight to be experts, right? So I want you to just bear in mind the social mission and how we reconcile that with, what's being proposed, and presumably will be passed by the Board of Health tomorrow. And then what? I mean, that's really, to me, I don't know I can state it any clearer.
That's a good preamble,
Thank you.
really.
Well, I'd just like to add something then on that preamble. I've had limited conversation with folks about the regulations, but I've thought a lot about the sort of role of the Board of Health and the direction we want to go as a town in terms of the development we would like to have in Carlisle going forward. And I think we want to go into the conversation tomorrow night with the Board of Health to see if we can identify the kind of key questions that we are concerned about, or the key aspects of the regulations that we're concerned about, and be as specific as we can. And when I say we, really, I'm going to be relying on other people that know a lot more than I do about these issues. But to be as specific as we can be about either the parts of the regulations that we don't agree with, or the ones that we don't understand, or the parts where we need more information. And I guess I feel pretty strongly that right now we want to try to keep the door open to finding a resolution that the Board of Health feels is meeting their mandate to protect public health, and that also we believe is in the best interest of the future of the town. That doesn't, so that the regulations don't limit or circumvent things that we might be saying we want to do as a town going forward.
Not circumvent, but
block. That's right, block. That's a good, better way of saying it. So,
And I just want to add, and which may have unintended consequences.
Yes.
Because.
Yes. But I probably sound a little bit like Pollyanna here, but I think if we want to reach a resolution, reach an outcome that is more acceptable to those that have concerns now, as well as allowing the Board of Health to do their job, we want to try to approach the conversation tomorrow night with that attitude, as opposed to, we don't have any leverage, we're in a hard place, we don't like what they're proposing. That, I don't feel I'm in a position to say that right now, given my understanding. And so, anyway, so that would be my goal for tomorrow night, would be to approach the conversation with the Board of Health as a real discussion about what the regulations mean, and also clarifying what they don't mean, and then seeing where we come out on that.
I just have a quick question just about tomorrow night. If we were not, if it was not agreed that it's a joint meeting, are there meetings open to public comment,
This is
or
a public hearing that they have,
it's a
but
public
we
hearing?
may be limited to 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different, just to elucidate. So the original ask from 2 weeks ago was, as Kate said, don't take a vote. And by the way, planning board would like to have a joint meeting. They didn't have a joint meeting that night. They had individuals, but they weren't, I don't think they were, I'm not sure they were posted. It wasn't all of them anyway. So the Board of Health did agree to that and scheduled it for May 1st. And it was going to be a joint meeting with Planning Board and Board of Health. And then Linda got sick, somebody else got sick, couldn't make it, blah, blah, blah. So
That's why it was bumped up.
it was bumped up, but now the Board of Health, Planning Board can't make it. I don't think Eric himself can make it tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, he cannot. And Addie, who's also,
She's in Italy.
she's very, right. So
was
the
here
people who are the most knowledgeable can't make it. So then we said, well, gee, can we stand in as a proxy for Planning Board and have the joint meeting, because we have Julie and we have John, and we can deliberate, and it's not as good, but it's something. And they said no. They just said no. So
But this doesn't have to go to town meeting, right? It's what's
no, but well, that's a different situation. But before we go down that path, all I want to say to clarify is, I think I felt maybe that it was important to still post it as a meeting for us, because when you don't have it posted, you run into worry that you're sort of deliberating with yourselves. We don't have to worry. We might only get a minute, but we can chime in. I can chime in.
Right. And I did invite them here for tonight as well.
Yeah, right. And as you see the outcome. Right. And the rush, by the way, is because one member's rolling off the board and they want to get the vote done with this board. There's absolutely zero time imperative to rushing this up, especially given these issues. And I will say that publicly.
Yeah.
It's a selfish move to get it done by a timetable by an individual that has far-reaching consequences for this community. It's ridiculous.
So I'd like to, Travis, you haven't had a chance to
Well,
say
I would
anything on
just,
this.
I don't need to pontificate, but I just say that. No, David, I thought you did a nice job of saying this is kind of it's not necessarily a clash, but it is. It's public safety and people saying, we're here to defend or protect the water supply and the nitrogen loading and make sure that versus another concerted effort to expand housing options within Carlisle. And so those two things are coming together, and I think, Barney, you have a really good approach, is to say, let's get some specific things that we may not understand and address those, and hopefully we can have some further discussion on this issue rather than have it come to a head tomorrow night. But I tend to believe, from the information I know to date, that this train is moving forward, and so all we can do is just do our best to kind of listen and bring up the issues that we think are concerns, and then I think if that's the case, then over the next year, if we think that this is a continued important issue, then as a select board, we need to take leadership on that and work towards
Right.
it. But
And let me build on that, because there is a path forward, in my opinion. I think the train is moving. They're going to vote. That's that. However, we can, in our budget authority, if we think it's important, I believe, undertake, and we would like their support, but I'm going to propose, undertake a real study about Carlisle does have unique geological features, housing features, and so forth. We're one of the few towns with 100% well and septic in our residential. So there's a lot of reasons why I think legitimately the Board of Health says we got to tread carefully. We only have one water supply. You mess it up, it's forever messed up. I believe, sort of the elevator speech of their position, and I don't think it's wrong. We only say, let's get data. Let's get Carlisle data, not comparable data. This is not like, forgive me, Zach, it's not like saying, well, Boxborough does this. I mean, this is us, our geology, let's take data, it costs some money, we got money, right? We just gave 400,000 extra to the police station. This is pretty important. I mean, this is up there with everything else. Water supply is like one of the most important things we have. So I believe it's worth, and I don't want to say for now or for tomorrow, but if we make this a focal point in our strategic planning in the summer, I think we can figure out a way to design, fund, study, hopefully get Board of Health to be part of it, commitment to analyze data, to revisit the regulations with data and say, what is the best thing for Carlisle? Nobody wants polluted water, right? It's not about that. And nobody wants unbridled development. We just gotta carve a reasonable path that's supported.
I guess I still don't see why they would not or should not be asked to revisit or to get that data before they change the rigs.
Hold
to
off
start
on
with.
approving
Hold
these.
off.
Yeah.
We're not going to irreparably and irretrievably poison our water in the next 6 months during the time that we could be getting that data and make some informed decisions.
Well, we've asked them to do that, right?
That's what we've asked them
Right,
to
and
do.
they've, so I think then it's, okay, so then what, right? So let's just presume that these regulations are gonna go into place, that a 1 minute thing from us isn't gonna change what we've already been asking them to do, right?
Well,
So,
we have not offered to fund a study
no,
up before now.
Right.
So,
but we don't know how much that study would cost or anything right now, I don't think. So, the worst thing that, so if, I mean, we're just presuming that these regulations are gonna be voted on tomorrow, right?
Well, I
And
believe that's
we don't
their,
have the ability to stop that.
We do not.
well,
So
The
we
second
don't-
piece of what you said is true.
we don't have sort of any legal or statutory ability, but we have our leadership ability. I mean, that's my point about how I think we should approach tomorrow night, which is as a conversation about these regulations and try to figure out tonight, what are the key aspects of these regulations, the changes that they're proposing? What do we believe the impact will be? And are we correct in our thinking about what that impact will be? Because I know, Julie and John have done a lot of work analyzing the regulations. I know there was some conversation last week with different members of the staff, and then I know some of the Board of Health members met. We all saw the memo that came from the planning board yesterday, which was trying to answer some of the questions that have been
Board of Health.
raised. Did I say Board of Health?
No, you said planning
Oh,
board.
I'm sorry, from the Board of Health yesterday, trying to answer some of these questions. I am not able to read that and understand whether they're actually answering some of the questions that members of the planning board and our staff have had. So I would like to know that tonight.
Yeah.
And I think we need to use our leadership authority, and we'll see where we get tomorrow night.
So should we hear from
Yeah.
Julie and
So,
John?
can we, the question to Julie and John is, have your concerns, in the latest memo from the Board of Health, were your concerns adequately addressed?
Or do you have anything else you wanna say?
Or, well, that's a basic question that we need to have answered, but,
So what I read in their memo was they acknowledged our concerns, but did not make any substantive changes to their regulations
that's how I read
or
it too.
proposed regulations.
And when you say they acknowledged your concerns, did they answer them? Did they address them? Did they give a explanation or a justification for why they wanted to go ahead with the proposed regulation?
In some instances, yes, but again, with no data, really, it was, the way I feel reading that memo is, we made up our mind and we're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your time, thank you for your efforts looking at our regulations.
That's more or less how I read it as well.
And Julie?
Yes, I agree with what John said. So there were some instances in which they provided their justifications for some of the changes they made and acknowledged that I had asked, or the planning board had asked specific questions, but I didn't see any substantive changes to the regulations that would address some of our primary concerns.
Mm-hmm. And Eric, you want to weigh in here as a member of the planning board?
I can't tell whether I want to weigh in as a member of the planning board or just as a citizen of the town.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna let that lie for now, but certainly as a citizen of the town, I think this goes back to what you all started with in your kind of collective preamble, which is, and I've said this to several people, I would be eager to stand at the front of the line to approve these regulations if I felt like there was imminent danger to our water supply or degradation to our environment. I just don't feel that way. And I feel like this is a ready, fire, aim situation, or at least a ready fire, and we're the ones hoping to aim, right? I was an environmental science major in college. I don't know what, certainly Julie and John know more about the minutiae of these regulations than I do, but as a scientific mind, no policy, in my opinion, should be embarked upon without some sort of scientific method and rigor in data collection. And I agree that Carlisle has unique geology, and we have a unique ethos and atmosphere here in our town, which we want to preserve. And if I was able to be there tomorrow night and have my piece, I would start by saying thank you to the Board of Health for endeavoring to preserve our environment and to protect the health and safety of our citizens. I just would try to compel them to press pause on what seems to be a rush to policymaking that does have far-reaching consequences, as we all know and understand. And it again, there doesn't seem to be an imminent threat. So, we have this. One of the things that is, I think, fundamental to their argument is that we have both private wells and septic systems in close proximity to each other on every or most parcels in town, which should mean that we have the opportunity to collect relevant site-specific data at each site, each property, right? By testing water coming out of these wells and measuring actual flow that's going into the septic systems. These are fundamental parts of the equation that they're basing this policy on, right? The assumption of flow rates, what's currently 110 gallons per bedroom per day versus 165, right? There's data to suggest that we don't even come close to these flow rates. And so, the assumption that going to 165 is, it's not assumption, but the logic behind it just seems, not that it's impossible to be accurate, we just don't have the data. I had a long conversation with Addie Grady last week, and she's citing some data that seems relevant. The Board of Health dismissed her during that data at the last hearing as being flawed for some reason. I don't know exactly why. But again, I feel like, why wouldn't we want to collect the relevant site-specific information that would help us all feel like we're making a thoughtful, conscientious, science-based decision on this matter? It just, I don't think it would be expensive, although I do think, I think it was David that suggested, maybe one of the outcomes from tonight's hearing or this meeting is to make, even though I'm sure there's some other approvals that have to be done, but to make a commitment to the Board of Health to fund a study of some number of houses in a geographically either kind of equally distributed geography across town or concentrated around known specific geologically unique areas of the town that would likely have different or unique characteristics for absorption of nitrogen or lack thereof, areas of particularly high groundwater, which also poses, is mentioned several times in their document and does pose a complication. As I've mentioned to several people recently, I feel like a blanket policy seems, I'm not sure what the right word is. I wouldn't adopt a blanket policy when we have the ability to potentially impose site-specific characteristics or site-specific regulations. As far as I understand it, and John, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you have to do test pits for perk rates at each new location, or when any septic system is proposed to be installed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So in the process of excavating test pits for perk rates, we would get a really, I think, at least, relevant perspective on soil characteristics in that specific location, which could inform the type of and size of system that would be appropriate for that area. And I realize that there's, deep below the depth that is required for a test pit, there could be specific geological features or characteristics that could impart different, limitations. But I feel like this is a starting point, and again, if someone, gave me the power to affect the situation right now, I would approach it in a more scientific and more site-specific way, not a blanket policy without data based what seems to me purely on anxiety and fear, albeit in the best interest of the environment and the town, but just there doesn't seem to be a need to do this tomorrow. And I can't help but feel like there's an ulterior motive given how, I think, inappropriate this potential outcome is. And not going to be a conspiracy theorist here, but it just seems so unnecessary that I can't come up with any other logic path to justify it. When we have so many smart, accomplished, scientifically minded folks in this town, that's just where I'm landing.
You said it really well. You said it really well. Thank you, Eric. That was really, I wish we could have recorded that and played it tomorrow.
Are we not recording?
Yes, it is recorded.
Good.
And can you play, are you allowed to play somebody else's comment as your comment?
It's public.
What?
It's public.
No, but I mean, could we replay his little clip
Can I
tomorrow?
ask about, I know there's some hands up, but Julie, I think I give you credit for it, but maybe it's Ryan, but didn't we fund, or didn't you procure a study, a hydrogeologic study, and could that be used in conjunction with this or altered to use it to study this type of thing?
So that's a great question. I did apply for a community planning grant on behalf of the Housing Trust about a year ago. And the scope of that grant is a little bit different than what we're talking about here, but I do have a call set up with someone from the state who administers the grant program just to kind of start asking questions about if we were to switch the scope, what would be required. So that's to be determined.
Great.
I
don't know if you want.
Well, I just want to be sure that our staff don't have anything else that they would like to tell us. Okay, Debbie?
I'm just going to talk from the environmental point of view, from a different environmental point of view. about carbon. Every time we disturb soil, we release CO2 into the atmosphere. And so obviously building a larger septic system is actually not good for the climate. And also distribution tanks, if they're larger, they're made out of concrete, which is possibly one of the worst materials that we can use. So just basically oversizing anything in the building industry is not good for the planet. And so this is a proposal that oversizes systems unnecessarily. So it is another aspect that should be considered from the environmental point of view, as well as, and I presume the Board of Health are concerned about climate change too.
Yeah, I want to build on that, and I don't have data, but maybe John or Julie can elaborate. But there's another risk to oversizing, which is the undersized flow that results, right? The regs, to my understanding, the regs, which go back a long time, go back to old big tank flush toilets and old style washing machines and, things like that. And today's appliances, and I would guess most Carlilians have a lot of the modern stuff, much, much lower flows. So if either you guys can speak to and this is something, again, that a study might come up with, the risk of too low a flow for an over-spec system.
So yeah, I'm gonna just echo what you just said exactly. When Title V was passed, we were on 9-gallon flushes and 55 gallons for a load of laundry. Dishwashers with I think an average of like 25 gallons per load. All of that, the codes, plumbing codes, have pushed all of that down, and the average appliances in a newer household that use far less water, so it's less taxing on the septic system. But it really goes back to the data. The one study that we found, actually Addie found, that the Board of Health dismissed, showed some of these developments between 22 gallons per day per bedroom, and I think the high was 104 if I remember correctly. Yeah. So the average gallons per day per bedroom in that particular study was 68 gallons per day. So it goes back to Carlisle is different from what was studied there, and I think it would be in everybody's best interest to get real data on Carlisle homes. The other thing that I just wanted to point out, I did a little bit of math with the census data, and I think it's like 2.6, somewhere around there, people per dwelling here in Carlisle. And most of these homes are larger with 5-bedroom septic systems, and they have 2 to 3 people in them.
But the impact of that, John, so you have this big over-designed system and low usage. Is there any risk to functionality if you're not pushing enough water through those big systems?
Absolutely. Your efficiency drops both at the tank itself and at the leaching field. The leaching field needs to create a biomat below it, which actually does the filtration of the effluent. If you don't have enough flow through it, you never create a good solid biomat, so it's less efficient. And there's tons of studies out there on that. So an undersized septic system can fail, and when it fails, because it backs up or it comes to the surface. An oversized system tends to just be less efficient. So there's a sweet spot, and Title V tried really hard to look at all the different situations and scenarios and give that 110 gallons per day. And again, there's studies that say that that's oversized.
And what is it the Board of Health regulations are proposing?
So it's a sliding scale, but so for a 3-bedroom septic system, the Title V would require 330 gallons per day. Here in Carlisle, they require 495 gallons per day.
Under the existing.
Per bedroom, right?
sorry?
50% more than DEP regs for up to a 3-bedroom septic.
That's the current regulation or these new revised ones?
That's in
That's
the
the
current
proposed,
regulation. The new revised ones hit what they define as multi-unit, which is 2 or more units. So a house with an accessory apartment, a 2-family conversion, with 165 gallons per day per bedroom.
You would, I mean, basically from the social impact, if I understand correctly, if you were thinking of creating, if you had the ability to create an accessory apartment out of your dwelling, but it put you in a whole new class of, you had to redo your field, like you're not going to do it. You just won't do it. And we've already kind of looked at the challenging and thin economics of just doing the apartment anyway, and you know, it'll say people just won't do it. It just won't happen. And the flip side is, and this is what I think Board of Health would say if, you know, is we don't want to backdoor 1-acre zoning. But there's other ways to manage that. So, you know, I think that's where collaborative work to meld all these things together, as Travis said. These are big time issues for the town that are colliding, but they don't have to collide. And that's really the disappointing thing, is that in my opinion, the Board of Health has chosen to ignore these others.
I mean, I think the point, David, is that they might collide, but we don't know.
We don't know, and there's ways to nuance. Again, if you just take Eric, if I say with my socialist hat on, I want to make sure that people have the ability to do accessory apartments so we can, you know, allow some people to live here that couldn't normally live here, whether it's elderly parents or it's a family from, you know, refugee family, who knows what. And then the other side will say, well, all you're doing is you're backdooring 1-acre zoning, and you're going to wake up one day and you're going to have de facto 1-acre zoning because everybody's popped a sort of separate house on the same thing. There's ways, there's other ways, there's bylaw ways, there's ways to work those problems and not just go headlong, as you said, into a change in reg till you've kind of figured that out.
And we have to also remember the 2-acre zoning was because they wanted to protect, you know, they wanted to have enough room between the septic and the well and all that. Because many lots, my lot's 2 acres, I could never put another house on. I've got too much wetland. There's no place I could put stuff. But if there were a 2-acre lot that could tolerate that, why not? The reason for the 2-acre is not to have houses spread out.
But even if, you know, John, how many accessory apartment permits have been approved in the time it's been?
35.
Julie, correct me if I'm wrong with my numbers here, but I believe that the accessory apartment bylaw has been in effect for 35 years. And to date, 34 have been approved.
Okay, 1 a year.
Yeah.
And we're running for
and actually a couple of those didn't actually get built.
Yeah.
So our hair's on fire for 1 year.
If you're going to read anything.
Though, just about the 2-acre zoning, and you know, I agree. It's 2 acres. You have to have a septic. You have to have a well. I believe just from back when I was on the planning board, the other thing we talked about was, but you also wanted to be able the flexibility. If one of those failed, you could easily put it somewhere else on your property and not, you know, you could have another well and have some flexibility in where you put it and still have it farther away from your septic.
You had to have a reserve space for the septic. That's right.
So what do we want to, you know, for tonight? It seems to me like what we could do tomorrow is we could offer this study, ask them to delay, offer them that we would, that we would support trying to get this study. Seems to me like that might be all we can do since they've decided they don't want to have a joint meeting with us. So I'm not sure how much they will listen to us, but it seems like that's really the only carrot we can offer, to ask them to just delay this, right?
Yeah. And to sort of make the case that Eric is making so eloquently that, you know, it's that we're not in an emergency situation. And so, right, I mean, just to make the case about why
Yeah,
these
I think those two
regulations.
go directly together, right?
Right.
It's not an emergency. Let's work together on the funding to try to make this,
Right,
to try to be able to do it so we can demonstrate to the town, we really, really thought this through, and here's the data that proves it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Other than that, the only thing we could do is just, voters will vote. And
then we, if depend.
you know,
You can still do the
regulations-
study.
The regulations can be
True.
changed, right?
Right,
Regulations change one way, they can change the other.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I would suggest that we shouldn't die on the hill of.
No, but the
blocking the vote, 'cause
regulations
they're
are
gonna vote.
already oversized, and this is going to.
I know, but I think the path forward is,
But I think that's a difficult thing because that's their call, right? So it's kind of like saying, you're not doing your job.
don't presuppose the outcome of the study.
Yeah.
I'd say right on the day, like Eric said.
Okay.
Eric's raising his hand, by the way.
Yeah.
Go
Does
say.
does the technology, in terms of is there an easy mechanism to be installed to measure GPMs coming out of a well, or GPD, I guess, gallons per day?
Is it gallons out of the well that you want, or the gallons into the septic?
They're the same gallons.
So
Unless you have
well-
an irrigation system.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the two small meters are actually for, 1 inch. There's some pretty inexpensive and accurate meters that can be installed. So in that situation, you put two and use a differential to know what's going on in the yard.
Right, and this was, so I'm just wondering if, again, we can figure out in a different time what the appropriate sample size is.
Yeah.
But if the select board was willing to fund the installation of 100 of these things, I don't know, again, sample size we have to figure out. In representative households to understand how close to that 110 are we actually coming up against? Is it, are we at 50, are we at 60, or are we at 120? This just seems like, and it seems like it's in their best interest, because to your point, John, like, if the biomass not being created and the system, we're oversizing systems and we end up in the same scenario feeding dog food to our septic systems that we do to the school, that seems insane.
Of insanity, yes.
Can, John or Eric, I mean, besides the flow rate, if you were to say core sample the biomat, I mean, let's say you identified in the study, low flow households, and then you go out to the field, can you core sample and see how effectively the field's working by flow rate?
That ends up being a destructive test.
Yeah, no. You do test wells.
I don't know how you would do that, David.
I think what you would do is test wells, and then you test the water coming out of the test wells that are down flow.
Either that or just test the water coming out of the well at the property.
Right.
Well, that's a better way, yes, because
do that too.
frankly, I've been reading, and 1/3 of the nitrogen is coming just from the atmosphere of the nitrogen loading. 1/3 comes from nitrogen. Then there's 1 part that comes from the septic, and then there's 3 parts that come from fertilizing the grass over the septic. So, I think you're right. You test the water in the well, and you measure the flows in the septic. And if there's contamination of the well, you got a problem. And if there isn't any contamination of the well, what's the problem?
So it seems like for tomorrow, just wanting to make sure that we move forward in a concerted way, we're all together on it. That we would say, we understand what you're trying to do, that you're trying to protect our environment. We have concerns about the data, and we've heard from citizens concerns about the regulations, and so we would like to offer that you delay this and work with us to design a test, and we will work with you to fund that test, reasonable size test, so that we can demonstrate to the citizens with data, the importance of what it is that
What's
you're trying,
needed.
what you're trying to do.
Right, what's
right?
needed.
You know, not saying you're wrong, but it's the importance of what you're trying to do. Let's help you get the data that proves what you're trying to do. Great.
I'm in favor of that.
I am too.
So we all just need to be agreed that we would help come up with the funding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Might have to scale it based upon what we think we could fund. I
Well,
want
and maybe, Julie may come up with grant funding.
There
Well,
might be
yeah.
either the current grant
Right.
can be
put
repurposed
in another
or an
one,
additional
another-
grant, or we find the funding.
Right,
don't
we'll
think
find the
it's
funding,
quarter that Ryan offered.
right.
I'll fund it.
And I heard, Chief Amendola would match, right? There's a matching,
Yeah.
No, he was going to do half of it.
half the quarter.
And is this, I'm just thinking about the Board of Health, seriously considering this. Does it make sense to, in advance of their meeting tomorrow night, from the select board, send a proposal about this to them, so they can all see it ahead of time and think about it, rather than it coming up out of the blue at the meeting tomorrow night?
I mean, it can't hurt. It's not, again, I think we have to think in terms of the study, and our ability to do that can happen regardless of tomorrow's outcome. The main thing is for and this is the hardest part really, I actually don't care if they pass or don't pass, as long as they're open to reviewing data and amending based on data. And I'm not there yet with this particular board.
Yeah, no.
You have to be data driven, okay? You have to be data driven to accept data as a part of the decision making process. And, I wish it were different, but I don't see a data driven board, and I don't know how to solve for that.
So then if we,
I don't know,
let's,
it's almost better just to have it come up as part of the,
Right, there'll be many
Better
conversations.
to have it come up as a meeting, personally.
but I don't
Because-
know. But have it in writing so that,
It wouldn't hurt. I wouldn't hurt to float a proposal.
it just
To the
makes it
chair.
more real, and also
Right.
gives those people, some people, they're hearing it for the first time, their reaction might be different than,
Right. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea, actually.
and,
It just has to be a couple paragraphs.
Right.
Just send a note to their board and to Linda, and then, you can reiterate it.
to write, or could we ask Ryan and Julie to?
You wouldn't have me send it.
I
I don't know, I think Kate,
No, but either.
I think Kate should write it and send
No,
it.
send
thanks.
it on our behalf.
That makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but
Well, how would you like to do it? Or do you even think it's a good idea?
Or David to do it because they're proposing it, is that why?
yeah, there you go. That's a good excuse, as good excuse as any.
Okay.
I won't have time to write anything tomorrow, but I could review something.
You could what?
I could review something tomorrow.
We can't
Yeah,
review
we
it.
can't review it.
Because
Can't
We
review
would
it.
just
We would
give
In
the
fact, we
authority.
can't even have the
If one
two of you
person-
do
if
it.
one
Only one
person
of you
wrote
can
it,
do this.
No,
This.
two of them can write it.
Two of us
Two of us
do
can
it.
write
You
it.
cannot.
Not on
No,
behalf
not
of.
really.
Not an open meeting law.
Okay, well, how
Which
about,
is why-
okay.
That's which is also why writing these letters.
I'm
It's
gonna ask Eric then. Eric, would you be willing to work with either me or David to draft something?
Can you do that?
Conceptually, yes, I just don't have
Okay.
time, I'm sorry. I've got meetings starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and ending with an event that's gonna be over at like 10 PM. so.
Yeah.
I think it's more compelling coming directly from the select board,
Yeah,
personally.
We just can't do it in time.
That's the
Well,
problem.
one can write on behalf of the board. One can be authorized to write on behalf of the board, right? Or not.
You don't feel knowledgeable enough to do that?
I don't get why two people can't write it.
Because of open meeting law. As soon as you have more than one person doing anything, it comes under.
Well, no, so I should revise that. So if you authorize two people to write to them, that's allowed as long as they're not sending it to everyone else.
yeah,
That's true.
yeah,
It's not.
Through-
Yes, okay.
right.
All right.
I can do it in the
It
morning.
would be really bad if you created something
and I could
and then sent it to
I have a
someone else.
standing meeting.
I think you only need a paragraph.
Yeah, I think it's short, very short.
It's a short thing.
Yeah, just very
It's
short.
a short thing. Are you,
As a result of our discussion last night, we would like to
Make this,
make this proposal.
yeah, and we would like
wanna
to
let you
discuss
know in
it further
advance.
with you at the meeting tonight,
Yes.
but here's a
Right. Are we-
quick summary of
are
what
we
we're
having in tomorrow morning?
suggesting.
Again?
And is, Julie, are you in the office? Julie and John, are you guys in the office tomorrow morning? Okay.
Yes.
I think we can bang it out tomorrow morning.
Great.
Okay.
And we'll need some, maybe some detail from them. We'll send something to the boards
That'd be
tomorrow.
great.
Okay,
All right.
good.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, guys.
Bye.
All right, I propose that maybe we skip the initial vacancies and committees policy discussion and do that another week
Yep.
because of our
Yay.
technical
Yeah.
Yay, Kate. We
difficulties.
love Kate.
And
That
what's
would
in
get
the
us
TA
pretty close
report,
to
yeah.
our TA, our
Yeah, you're right
scheduled
on.
time,
Yeah,
TA report.
okay.
Westford's override failed.
Oh, it
Did, huh?
Wow. Just tonight? Was it tonight?
Ballot, yeah. I'm hearing that secondhand, but I believe the
Uh-huh.
source.
Is that from Kelly?
How much was the override?
I think it was a good bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right, so we're going to the TA report.
I don't know anybody in Acton who's supporting it.
What is this?
This was a long one, this packet.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's Kate's fault. Not even a chuckle, Kate. I get
I'm
it.
sorry, I didn't hear it. I
That's
just,
all right.
I'm a little exhausted. This last couple.
So everyone here is familiar with the records management and land use cubicle project that's happening here in town. I know I keep harping on them, but they are important. Big dates, May 22nd, May 21st, and May 23rd. The health department and the conscom department will be remote and limited access as we reconfigure their cubes. We're working diligently to get their records together and digitize as much as possible. And then once this part of the project's done, I will be turning that ARPA money back over to ARPA, whatever's left over from the
Really
records
nice.
management project. With the idea that there would be some type of request in the future to manage a records project that would be more encompassing. So I think we've done everything we can do short of organizing all of the records in town. You heard about Gregory. We're excited to welcome him to the DPW. Still looking for another driver labor at the DPW and land use municipal assistance, which would support the conscom, and Sylvia will be interviewing next week. Showed you the town meeting video. That was exciting. It'll be live tomorrow. Okay, so the Q3 financial report. I'm going to give you a very high level, but please feel free to dig in. So this is a review as of March 31st. You've seen this report now a couple times, so hopefully you're getting used to it. The main takeaways are that we have spent 71.61% of the budget as of March 31st.
Brings us under
Yeah,
3%.
no, that's nice. I saw it.
So 76%, or 75 is the expectation. So what does that mean? That would generate, because this doesn't include the school side, so if you apply that 71.61% to the operating town side, it would return somewhere between 400 and 750,000 in free cash. So more than we anticipated. We try to generate around 300. I will caveat this by saying there are still a quarter to go and a lot of expenses to do, but we do believe we'll outperform expectations and generate some free cash. Some concerning items continue to include group health insurance, which we've adjusted in the FY25 budget, but is still a problem in FY24. Same with liability insurance, and you're aware of the vocational school deficit. So all of those are included in that assessment of a $400,000 to $750,000 return on expense. In terms of revenue, we are right where we thought we would be, under under projecting revenue by about 1 to 2%, which is a turn back of somewhere between 250 and 500,000. So combined, in addition to encumbrances and projects that need to be done, we're anticipating around $1 million free cash certification number. The ideal target is somewhere between 5 and 750, so we're a little bit over, which is good, but worth more analysis in next year's budget process. Are we being too conservative? Are we appropriately budgeting, et cetera? I won't read every capital and professional services line, but this is your line by line on current capital items. Still categorizing Corey Auditorium as red, although we have contracted with the goods side of the goods and services side of the budget, and now we have a good cost estimate on the EC side. So we think this project is going to need somewhere between 20 and 50,000 more, depending on how the electrical construction bid comes in. It's better news than we thought, but still got some work to do to finish this project.
I'm worried about the.
Where's that money come from? Free cash?
The schools have requested, since they turned back all that ARPA, to then use some of the ARPA.
Is there enough ARPA left?
There would be. You could also use the FinCom reserve for this particular project.
Whatever happened to the elevators? Because we were supposed to have a report, and that was supposed.
It was due Friday, so.
Where it was due last week for the last 20 weeks.
It's gonna come, and it's gonna be great.
So it's Christmas, but you know, come on.
Town reserves, you're familiar with this figure. So this is our financial monitoring, so this is important. I like to go over it. So town reserves, we are over our projected amount, about to spend some at town meeting, but still within the over the 12% threshold. Cash is being reconciled at the appropriate timing. So we are reconciled as of March 31st, which is as good as you can get. The internal auditing, Kelly and I have gone over some procedures to start this at the beginning of the fiscal year per what she wanted to get done and what the financial audit said we should do. So this is a checklist. We go to each department, we check to make sure they're following policy, and then provide you an internal audit report by department. And then departments are now reconciling both cash and, I'm sorry, not cash, both revenue and expense, which was another item from the audit. So that is good. We can check that box. And as you know, the external audit is done, both the town audit and the one-time audit for the ARPA funding. The finding from the ARPA audit was that we needed you'll be shocked, financial policy. So we have crafted one, and we'll be bringing one to you to publish. We'll need it for about 1 more year, and then ARPA money will go away, and we won't hit the threshold needed for the single audit anymore. So we'll publish the policy, use it for 1 year, and then we won't need it.
Well, until the next time.
If there's more ARPA, then it means the world has gone to hell again.
We don't know. We used to get FEMA money that we used to have to do single audits for. So.
FEMA? What FEMA thing did we have?
Well, we've gotten it in the
Came
past.
to us before ARPA.
Before ARPA. You don't remember? Because when
What?
trees would be down and
Trees
things
being
like,
down.
yeah.
Sorry.
Storm response. So a lot of data at the end of this report. This is expense line by line, as you're used to seeing it in the budget, identified by colors, of course. And then down here you have your continuing appropriations, or what you would see as capital.
So marriage licenses are running 50%. Is that under or
On the
over?
revenue, yes. We're having a marriage deficit.
Yeah, so we got
$50 a piece.
we got to do something about that. Let's
That's because
go.
we're an aging population.
5 marriages short.
That's right.
If you notice, it is kind of tongue in cheek, but the red ones are not concerning items. Right? They're smaller ticket items. All of the revenues that we need to perform are performing. So there's a lot of red, but it's not concerning. I will call out, this is of particular importance, why we continue, besides just good financial management, but the numbers, we still want to be conservative with some of the numbers. So if you look at the investment earnings, we anticipated about 20,000 and we're bringing in 134.
The market has been performing well.
If we can continue to perform that way, great, but that's not something that we
can
plan
count
for.
Don't bet on it.
And then line by line, so we're calling this open checkbook. So every line in the budget is included in this report for you to review and see full transparency in our budgeting.
That's nice. Picked up 114K. That's good.
That's when you left, huh? We asked for this.
This is great,
many
Ryan.
years ago.
Really. good for us to review, and it is glad you're doing it all.
So quarter three, I would say, is the most important, right? So that's where we either are in trouble or not, and where we can start projecting our free cash and compare it to our budget assumptions right before town meeting. So I feel comfortable recommending to you that we are hitting our targets. Budget advocacy. So the House version and today the Senate Ways and Means also passed the same numbers here. So the state is recommending, at least the House and the Senate so far, they still need to reconcile the budget, an increase in school aid under Chapter 70 from $30 a student to $104. So this translates into $40,000 for Carlisle Public Schools and even more for the regional schools. So this would bring your budget under 3% tax increase, like we were saying. Hasn't been passed yet, and it's not good practice to say it's going to pass because a lot can happen. The state revenue numbers are also up this quarter, so this number becomes more solid in my mind. However, if you'd like to contact the Senator Barrett, and say this is really important, this is about the only help that Carlisle gets besides Chapter 90 is this 70. So
can I ask you a 70 question? In the revenue line, the budget was 1.38 million, and we've collected 1.04 million. And are we done collecting for the year, or is more coming in?
More coming.
So we'll be, I mean, that's an amount off a cherry sheet or something, right? We should just hit that right on the nose.
State numbers will come in where they're at.
Yeah, right, okay. So
The ones we really are concerned about are excise stickers, transfer stickers.
Marriage licenses.
Marriage license.
Yeah.
We're $250 under budget.
We should also, though, I have to say, keep an eye on the high school budget, because in their long memo about why they couldn't get to the 3% cap that the Concord had put on them, one of the things was less money from the state. And if they get this money, I'd like to know what they're going to do with it, and if we're going to get it back, to reduce their budget somehow going forward. So.
Yes. The EV chargers in town. So as of May 1st, I have approved a change in the cost of EV chargers from 65 cents a kilowatt to 30 cents a kilowatt. So previously, Steve Bastick was managing this for us. His only instruction was to not lose money and to cover long-term capital. So I put together a working group of some smart folks, including Sarah and a couple members of the ESC, to analyze this. So we looked at it regionally and did some cost analysis that we will be bringing to you for final decision. So what I approved was a 2-month pilot so that you can get some data, which has been a talking point tonight, in terms of what price sensitivity does to the cost of the chargers. So hopefully, the reason why we're doing these 2 months in particular is teachers are still there, and several teachers in a survey we did said they would use the chargers at work if they were available and they were cheaper. So we're gonna test that price sensitivity and bring you that data. And then we'll make a decision, or the select board will make a decision on what to do in terms of a charger policy. We also want to capture some long-term costs, and it's important to note there is no financial mechanism for capturing the revenue for this. So it dumps into the general fund and doesn't create some surplus that we can use for capital. So we either have to add these prices to the capital plan or create a revolving fund in order for it to pay for itself. So there's a few nuances to figure out.
I have one other question about those, because those have a very low rate of charging, like it's a trickle charge. Has that also been changed? Is it charging faster now, those things?
So you're gonna get a whole presentation on this, but that is governed so that we don't get demand charges. It's all part of, there has been no discussion about subsidizing these chargers, and I think that would be a pretty meaty conversation in the public. So the governor is part of making sure that it doesn't cost any money. So this part of the policy that needs to be discussed.
Okay, because
Governor's the wrong word. I just don't.
Influence some of the people not wanting to use those chargers because
They're so slow.
They're so slow.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a policy discussion at this level of whether or not, like, what you want to do there, how much risk you want to take, et cetera. So I only approved the gathering of data because I did not think it would have a financial impact.
Good man.
All right, natural gas. Also, Sarah's been doing a lot of work for me, and she's great. So we are out of compliance with our natural gas contract. We knew that. We're into the summer months where we don't spend any natural gas. We are trying to combine with the schools so that we're more competitive. Our accounts are not worth much. The schools' accounts are worth more than ours. So we're trying to combine into one broker and vendor. And Sarah has done research to make sure that we only select vendors that do have some sustainability consciousness, although this market is not the same as electricity, so. It's,
Does that mean they're not fracking?
we're trying to pick greener companies while still maintaining cost. So we would not at this time say we would sacrifice cost for green, but we do think we can combine it into a good recommendation. I have also, in conjunction with the Council on Aging, Carlisle Public Schools, and Gleason Public Library, authorized small pride flags on the center rotary and a banner over School Street to celebrate Pride 7 to 10 days prior to the event. This is, again, co-sponsored by the schools and the COHS and the Gleason Public Library for an event on May 31st to include a parade. So I will be trying to attend that as well.
I know, it's in trouble.
Higher than expected.
It's in trouble. I guess if you read City in the Woods, they gotta go to Banton now.
We're already on to the next one, Ryan.
Okay.
Sorry, we're doing
Dog park.
Apologies.
We're hoping to get a private funder to close the gap on the procurement that came in higher than expected, shockingly. More to follow in the dog park. Talked about Corey Auditorium. Greeno Barn results come in on the 9th. Okay,
All right.
some important discussion points for the board to remember.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Important discussion. You'll be reorganizing at your next meeting, and we've already honored Nathan. You are now pumpkins. Congratulations. So you need to reorganize. So
Would that mean I don't have to go to town meeting?
Yeah, no, you still do. Online donations, which you've talked about, Friends of Center Park agreement, which you've talked about. For the Hanscom Air Force Base private jet expansion discussion, per your request, I reached out to Massport. They said they do not provide personnel to meet or answer questions with the public, but they did direct you to their official website where you can get information. So they will not be sending anybody. They don't send any money to any town, not ours. They were very clear about that. So
That's odd.
That is odd.
I would think they'd want to generate support.
Yeah,
they want a unified message, they said. So you can go to the website.
That's stupid.
that is dumb. Another reason not to
I
pass.
fulfilled your request.
No, I know, but I mean,
Yeah.
So there's 3 financial policies in your packet, another 8 coming. So part of the summer we'll be trying to get through these. So our next audit is clean.
that's stupid.
But before you go too far, I wanna know if we're putting this on the next agenda or not.
What?
Travis wants to know.
Hanscom?
Yes.
Yeah, we said we would, didn't we?
Well, but we said we would if we got this, so now that we have this information, you still want it on the agenda.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
I think we
consider
do.
All right,
I
I
mean, I do feel strongly that you should hear like both sides of whatever the issue is, and that's why I wanted to make sure. And you reached out, and that's what we get. So
You actually
we have
reached
the-
out? What's the method of reach
I
out?
called the director of Massport or
Okay.
representative. She directed me to someone who's handling these community requests, and that person sent me this website.
Just said this, all your answers are on the website.
They said they don't attend public meetings because there's been so many requests that they want one message, and it is all on the website.
So
So I guess we have to study the website.
Yeah.
Well, that link. You
That
should
link.
probably look at the
Right.
link.
Right,
It's
Right.
it's a pretty significant website,
okay.
but it's not a person answering.
So I'm just trying to understand so a number of us attended that webinar, I don't know, what would you call it?
The League of Women Voters?
Yeah, so that presented one side. It was one-sided. I'm not saying it was wrong, but it was one-sided. Is that material gonna be available for prep? I mean, we should have, it sounds like we should have the
I
two.
think
Should
the
be a
ES.
link to that in our
Okay,
packet and a link to this, and then we
Yeah.
should all
read up on it.
undertake to see both of those.
And isn't this also something requested by the ESC that we consider this again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember, we got that
Yes.
request from them. Yeah.
With
So-
specific questions directed to Lana and the league because they have a lot of information on it.
Yeah.
So if is the outcome, and it may not be coincident with the first time we look at it, but if we eventually come up with what I think ESC would prefer, which is we don't support it in some fashion, where does that message go? Does it go anywhere? Does it go back to the lady who told us to read the website? I mean, what do we do with that?
Yeah, it becomes part of the group that is opposed to the expansion is collecting the results from all these different town votes.
So they can say, you know, all the surrounding towns said no to it.
Various communities have already signed,
Oh, there's something to be signed. Okay, I see.
So we should get that letter then
Yeah, we
as well in the packet so that
Right.
we would have some sort of a template.
Yeah.
Right.
They all sign the same letter, Christina, or they each send a letter that's sort of the same?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay, we should, yeah, it'd be good to know. Okay.
Okay, there are 3 financial policies in your packet.
Yes.
My general plea is that we're gonna be doing about 11 of these in the next couple months. So the more we can get feedback, the easier that process will go. And we want it to be to your liking. And please know they've been vetted by the financial management team and the finance committee. All right, staff recognition. So you all saw the sad news with Sergeant Ian Taylor of the Billerica Police Department, who tragically gave his life in service to his community. So our officers, and I think you would agree that it was not only necessary, but something that brotherhood does, assisted Billerica with shift coverage and attended several support events to make sure that the community and the region felt the support from Carlisle. So on behalf of the entire staff,
John's guys now.
wanted to offer our condolences to the family of Sergeant Taylor and continue to offer our support for what is, I don't know if I have the words. So thank you to the police department for taking care of that on behalf of the town. For Karen, our dedicated veteran director, she became an accredited veteran service officer for the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers. So this is someone who is accredited to work with the VA on behalf of our veterans. She primarily does VA work in town because the Chapter 115 program, which is another part of her job, is income-based. So there are not a lot of veterans in the community that need assistance. If they did, we would provide it. But the VA is a place where a lot of support is needed in Carlisle. So she is as connected as you can get to help our veterans in that sense. Lastly, there's a picture of some tree work the DPW did. Been doing a lot of touring as you know, the winter ends, going around looking at potholes and the like. DPW is doing a lot of work, responding to a lot of requests. This resident sought assistance removing these trees, and it was gone the next day. And she was very impressed with the DPW, so I thought I would pass that along.
Hear, hear.
Some quick notes. The town meeting, so we talked about the meeting before the town meeting, then there's the town meeting, and then there's the election on the 21st. There's the first Nathan Free meeting on May 28th. And then I will be going to some professional development on the Cape, then leaving you to do what I was supposed to do in March, which was my military service in El Paso.
June in El Paso.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty bad.
6:30, we're meeting at 6.
I hear the classrooms don't have air conditioning, so I'm pumped.
We're meeting at 6:30 on the 13th.
On Monday?
Is that what we agreed to?
Yeah,
Yes,
is that correct?
6:30.
And then just one thing I'm noting on our May 28th agenda, you've got an executive session in there for 6:30. So is that something we should make sure we put on our calendars?
Yes.
There
Starting
is
early?
an executive session to discuss the re-engagement with the dispatch union.
That's the 28th.
I had it in this week.
A quick note on that, we will be finalizing the contract from FY20 to FY23, which has not been signed. And then
Dispatch?
Yeah.
and then working on FY24 and then the 2 follow-on years. So a quick 5 years of work at that executive session.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Cemetery deeds, unfortunately, we have to take care of. Who would like to read those?
I'll sign them. Once we voted.
Barney's the good motions.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay.
You're good at that, Barney.
Well, here we go. All right, I've got them. I move to transfer land in the public burial ground of the Green Cemetery described as follows. Deed 818, Lot D371, Graves 1 and 2 to Roger Van Zell, former resident. Deed 819, Lot D402, Graves 1, 2, 3, and 4 to Martha Supnick, 106 Heald Road. Deed 821, Lot D332, Graves 1 and 2 to Matthew Borello, for parents, former residents. Deed 822, Lot D335, Graves 2, 3, and 4 to Sharon Brown of 5 Garrison Way. Deed 823, Lot D330, Graves 1 and 2 to Christopher Ferrari, 95 Hemlock Hill Road. Deed 824, Lot D389, Graves 1 and 2 to Lee Sandwin at 72 Suffolk Lane. We don't have a lot of marriages, but I guess we're anticipating some deaths.
Yep.
Okay.
Some of them have happened. Second.
Is there a second?
There is. I have a question.
Okay.
I noted that they're either living here or there's some tie to their residency. Is that a criterion for
Yes.
getting the cemetery deed?
That's right. They had to have lived in Carlisle, I believe.
The occupant of the grave or the, okay.
The buyer of the deed. The buyer.
Buyer of the deed, but they could bury whoever they want in it. Once they, okay. Just questioning.
It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I actually don't know the answer. I'll get you that.
I mean, like in the Matthew Borello case, I presume he does not live here, but he's buying it for his parents who did live here. So I guess that's okay. Like you can live here and buy it. That's obvious. You can have lived here and buy it. But you could also not live here, but be burying somebody who's lived here. Is that, I'm assuming.
You have to have lived here in order to have the deed.
Ah,
So you can't not have lived here and bury somebody else here.
okay. So it's implied with Matthew Borello that I guess he lived here when his parents lived here. It's just that it doesn't give an address for him.
Right.
And I'm just asking the
I will
question.
get you that answer. I'm curious.
Yeah.
But
I know though that,
I'm sure it's fine. I don't know.
Reconstituted Cemetery Committee will certainly go
Yeah,
over this.
that's right.
yes.
Good job for Nathan in his retirement.
Yeah, cemetery, the new.
he was paying, but he was just buying it for his parents though.
Just a question. I don't care. It's
It's
Curious.
past our.
Okay,
deadline
yeah,
here.
we're running.
Well, we're-
All right, we got, still have, do we need to take a vote on these deeds?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's
And then we have the
unanimous.
minutes.
Yeah, I didn't get around to reading minutes. I was reading septic reg.
I didn't read them either. Do you
I
wanna-
didn't either.
Okay, so you want to push them off to the next, or does that bad?
We can push. There is a typo. Nathan Modell. I don't know if that's the current or the former select person.
Okay.
So Gretchen can take it. What's that?
We'll take these up at the next meeting.
Use the
Okay.
revenue.
Yeah.
You guys do want to get married.
Well, we could do them at the meeting before the,
Yeah, we could do them,
Yeah, we don't have any
before,
other business.
before
That's
Nathan's still a
Same.
part of it.
Yeah.
That's fine. I read
the
them.
town meeting. So try to read them, folks, before then, so that we will put that on our agenda for the town meeting.
Okay.
Meeting.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
There are a lot of things in there to go back to.
Anybody have any liaison reports?
Well, I would say the town meeting study committee had its final meeting before town meeting.
Okay.
We have a whole bunch of action items. There is a little video clip that's being pushed out. There's posters that are going to pop up around town. There's one more. We've had a series of now 3 letters to the editor. The third one will come out this week, and we'll speak to the poll that we're going to do. We have a nice jot form enabled, smartphone enabled poll. It's a pretty interesting survey. So we're hoping that we get a lot of data from that we can plow through in the summertime to give us better insight into. And I think I mentioned it before, but Wayne has agreed to speed up a bunch of the stuff in the beginning so we get started faster. So I'm looking forward to A, seeing if our outreach efforts have actually increased participation, and B, if we have a snappier town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly, our little information session at the beginning wasn't appreciated necessarily in terms of getting through the other stuff.
Are we ready to adjourn?
No, nobody else has liaison reports. We have, community input,
Oh, excuse me.
and you can't leave before you sign these anyway.
No, I wasn't gonna leave. I just
Any,
trying to wrap it up.
Jeannie, Jerry, and Christina, they're the only last of the Mohicans here.
Yep.
Okay, nothing from Jeannie, nothing from Jerry.
There are a lot to
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
and move. That's it. All those in
Nathan,
favor?
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
I'll see you
newfound
tomorrow night.
freedom.